I am the king of slaughter. I am the bloodthirsty butcher. I am the embodiment of cruelty. 10 years of darkness in the apocalypse. I was betrayed by family and stabbed in the back by brothers, my face trampled into the mud and filth of a drain, my dignity shattered into pieces, leaving only a heart bent on revenge. Eventually, I climbed the highest throne atop a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Finally, I returned. The stadium, an excited heart, trembling hands. Yang Feng queued for 2 hours holding a trendy milk tea, searching near the basketball court. A perfect silhouette came into view with hair cascading like a waterfall down to the seat, sitting there in peaceful stillness, gentle and innocent. That was none other than Yang Feng's goddess, Shenming Yao. Hey, it's autumn. It's a bit cheesy, but this counts as the first milk tea of autumn. Yang Feng scratched his head awkwardly, looking nervous, repeating some corny pickup line, head picked up from somewhere, so cringeworthy, it could make you curl your toes. Thank you, Yang Feng. Shenming Yao showed a gentle but polite smile, her eyes slightly evasive as her slender fingers tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The small gesture made Yang Feng stare in a daze. I'll message you later. Shenming Yao held her phone, gently waved her hand, politely asking Yang Feng to leave for now, but her eyes inadvertently glanced at a man sweating on the basketball court. Okay, let's talk again tonight. Yang Feng was filled with excitement, having another chance to chat with his goddess. He felt like he had one big. Not to mention queuing for 2 hours, even 20 hours would be worth it. He exchanged a few more pleasantries and turned to leave. Yang Feng seemed reluctant, wanting to go back and say a few more caring words. Then a shocking scene appeared. Shenming Yao gently picked up the milk tea and, making sure no one noticed, threw it into the trash can. Heart cold. Yang Feng's heart suddenly tightened, an indescribable stinging pain wringing his heart. A whistle blew. Basketball halftime. A robust man radiating masculine hormones walked towards Shenming Yao. That was the rich second-generation clan of the basketball team, Chung Zijia. Shenming Yao immediately picked up a towel she had prepared, gently handed it to him, and carefully wiped his sweat. Chung Zijia did not stand on ceremony. He pulled Shenming Yao into his arms, his sweat wetting her clothes, but she just blushed and continued wiping his sweat. Why? Why are they so intimate? When did they meet? Could it be that goddess Shenming Yao doesn't only have— I saw everything. That guy gave you milk tea. Heh. Chung Zijia seemed to sense a gaze look towards Yang Feng, released Shenming Yao, and threw the basketball in that direction. Bang. A heavy thud, the basketball hit right in the face. Yang Feng's nose bled profusely, his whole body leaned backward, his head hitting the concrete floor heavily. Dizziness. The world went black. An intense dizziness accompanied by indescribable illusions emitting colorful glazed light. Like a revolving lantern, countless dark and bloody images flashed through his mind, massive memories from the future rushing into his brain. Tearing pain accompanied by massive memories gradually made the images clearer. Back. And back. Yang Feng opened his eyes, a restrained, fierce glint, flashing no longer the innocence from before. This is the stadium. Is this the time before the apocalypse broke out? Yang Feng muttered to himself, the smell of blood in his nostrils. He wiped his nose and found himself injured. Yes, his past self was somewhat cowardly, naive, often bullied. After the apocalypse, after countless betrayals, countless humiliations, countless manslaughters, he cut through thorns and carved a bloody path. You're Yang Feng, right? Chung Zijia walked over slowly, surrounded by his basketball buddies, showing no regret for smashing Yang Feng's nose. Shenming Yao has plenty of suitors. But you, this simp, are kind of disgusting to me. That was a lesson just now. Stay away from her from now on, understand? Chung Zijia slowly squatted down, grabbed Yang Feng by the collar, and stared at him with a look of contempt, as if looking at trash. Goddess Shenming Yao stood to the side, her slightly reddened face showing concern, but in the end she bit her lip and turned away. Oh. Yang Feng let out a cold laugh, his eyes even sharper. The memory was too distant, fuzzy. Turns out he once had a goddess he pursued, and it seemed she wasn't on his side. What are you laughing at? Chung Zijia, seeing him sneer, felt a surge of rage and raised his fist to teach Yang Feng a lesson. At that moment, Yang Feng's peripheral vision caught a discarded grilled sausage stick nearby. Without any hesitation, he grabbed it and struck first, thrusting it forward. Vicious. Sinister. Without any hesitation. A soft sound, the bamboo stick precisely pierced through the throat, entering from one side and coming out the other. Don't move. I didn't pierce your artery. But if you move, you'll die. A slight smile curled at the corner of Yang Feng's mouth, a demonic grin, his eyes flashing with sharp and cold light, as if a venomous snake was watching its prey. Chung Zijia covered his throat, but fear made him momentarily forget the pain, forgot to scream. Incredulous. Unbelievable. Chung Ziji's eyes filled with terror, meeting Yang Feng's gaze, which was like a cold blade forbidding anyone to look directly. Pity. The disaster hasn't broken out yet, so it's not convenient to kill. Otherwise, for drawing my blood, I would have torn you apart. Yang Feng's face leaned close to Chung Zijia, his smile twisted, even looking ferocious and terrifying, splitting like a demon's grin to the ears. Yeah. The surrounding crowd finally reacted, some screaming loudly. Shin Mingyao also covered her mouth in disbelief, never expecting that Yang Feng, who had always been willing to be a simp, would do such a terrifying thing. A burly man beside Cheng Zijia, who seemed capable, was the first to react. He raised his fist and was about to strike. Yang Feng caught this moment. Although his physical condition was poor, countless deadly battles had honed his exquisite combat skills. Quick eyes and quick hands. Yang Feng shifted his feet with a strange step, dodging the punch, and at the same time reached forward, grabbing the burly man's other arm. Both hands gripping two fingers. Crack. Yang Feng's eyes hardened. He exerted force, suddenly bending both fingers outward viciously. The sound of breaking porcelain could be heard, the thick fingers twisting irregularly. Ah! The burly man let out a pig-like scream. The severe pain instantly disabled him. His face turned pale, with cold sweat, kneeling and howling. Too fragile. Just two broken fingers, and he's screaming like this. In Yang Feng's cold eyes shone contempt and scorn. His sharp gaze swept around. I advise you not to act. Next time it won't be just two fingers. One sentence. Everyone involuntarily averted their eyes, stepped back, afraid to get involved. Yang Feng. Shin Mingyao hugged her arms, her eyes complex, full of disbelief and shock. She stepped forward, wanting to say something to Yang Feng. Slap. Yang Feng backhanded her across the face. 5 red finger marks immediately appeared on Goddess Shin Mingyio's face, clear and vivid. Who the FCK are you? Yang Feng looked down at her with contempt for his current self. There was no such thing as a love games. So childish. Shin Mingyao collapsed to the ground. 5 distinct red finger marks were clearly visible on her face. Her usual gentle, serene, and tender image had become utterly disheveled. Shin Mingyao covered her face, her pupils trembling like an earthquake, unable to believe that the suitor who had fawned over her for so long had just viciously slapped her. Nice eyes. I really like this shocked and helpless expression of yours, like a rabbit cornered in a... Yang Feng grabbed Shin Mingyio's chin with one hand, his smile turning more sinister, but the emotion in his eyes no longer held any trace of former adoration or servility. A plaything. In his hand, Shin Mingyao was no longer the goddess of his dreams, but a wounded prey, cornered and helpless to be toyed with at his will. Thus, the balance of power shifted. Their positions had completely reversed. The simp had transformed into a demon that made the goddess tremble and shudder. Send your useless boyfriend to the hospital. What happens next is going to get very, very interesting. I truly hope to see you alive again to give me more entertainment. Yang Feng released Shin Mingyio's face. The thought that soon a terrifying disaster would erupt, with countless twisted mutant monsters tearing civilization and order apart. The terrified expressions of these people would surely be spectacular and amusing. Having said that, Yang Feng turned and walked away, gradually disappearing from sight. Only after he was completely gone did the thoroughly intimidated people snap out of it, picking up phones to dial 120 for emergency and the police. However, sending him to the hospital, questioning the situation, and filing a case would still take some time. In a few hours, they wouldn't have time for Yang Feng. The entire city would descend into chaos, police lines would be flooded, and looting of supplies would be seen everywhere. The precursor of the apocalypse was no joke. Only less than a day. Yang Feng walked along a quiet path, pulled out his phone, and looked at the time. The apocalypse would erupt, disaster would rage, civilization would collapse, humanity would degenerate. The countdown to the dark era was merely 1 day away. Too rushed. If there were more time, he could raise funds, buy weapons, stockpile supplies, and build an impregnable stockpiling supplies and buying weapons all require money. Yang Feng's eyes flickered as he opened his payment apps to check his account balance. Absolutely pathetic. He was just an ordinary person. The number had barely surpassed 4 digits, likely only enough to last until the end of the month. Yang Feng opened the internal borrowing apps, his pupils constricted. He was already heavily in debt, and his credit score prevented him from borrowing another cent. Was I really such a simp before the apocalypse? Yang Feng's heart was as firm as rock, hard as steel, cruel and bloodthirsty, but that wasn't how he was before the apocalypse. To please his so-called goddess, he had taken out various loans, borrowing money just to satisfy the occasional little wishes she expressed. I should have strangled her just now. Yang Feng nearly crushed his phone while also lamenting how utterly foolish his pre-apocalypse self had been. He exhaled a breath of foul air, his cold eyes flickering. I have no property. I have no car. Without collateral, even a shady second-hand dealer wouldn't lend me money. Too real. This was the most authentic situation. Yang Feng was not a rich second generation, just an ordinary person who could not throw money around or stockpile endless supplies. With no other choice. Ring, ring, ring. The phone rang and Uncle's voice came from the other end. Yang Feng, what brings you to call your second uncle? How have you been lately? Yang Feng listened to the insincere pleasantries and cut to the chase. Second uncle, I need a sum of money. Money. That word instantly silenced the second uncle on the other end. After hesitating for a few seconds, the second uncle spoke in a very strained voice. Yang Feng, your cousin just bought a new house and hasn't decorated it yet. We're tight on money too. Yang Feng's gaze turned even colder, even revealing a hint of murderous intent. When my parents died in a car accident back, then it was you relatives who took away the inheritance. I need that money now, my own money. Yang Feng's voice grew sharper, disregarding the other's face, emphasizing that the money belonged to him. It turned out that Yang Feng's parents died early in a car accident. Due to his age, the inheritance was entrusted to several relatives who ended up dividing it among themselves. Originally somewhat timid, Yang Feng had never brought up the matter, and the relatives naturally let it slide. Yang Feng, how can you talk like that? Second uncle's voice on the other end changed, as if he were a different person. He scolded, weren't we the ones who paid for your schooling clothes and college tuition in your early years? Your cousin is buying a house and getting married. That's the top priority. What could be more important than that? The money will be given to you eventually, but not now. Yang Feng's eyes glinted coldly. He listened silently to these words, a sneer curling at the corner of his mouth. What a pity. Your family just lost your last chance to survive. Yang Feng hung up and immediately dialed another number. Third uncle, part of my parents' inheritance is with you. Ooh, I want it back now. Third uncle paused for a few seconds, his voice coming through the phone. You're a grown adult, you should know better. How do you speak to your elders? Are you an ungrateful wolf? The calls always ended in discord. The warmth of human relationships. Greed knows no bounds. Yang Feng coldly hung up the phone. In fact, he wasn't surprised by the relatives' reactions. They were just maggots infatuated with money. The apocalypse was coming. Darker, crueler, more ruthless, more hateful things would happen every moment, far more tragic than this. By then he hoped they wouldn't come begging him. What a shame. I was going to give a little apocalypse warning, but now it seems more amusing to let them die miserably. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth curled upward, almost cruelly stretching to his ears. Since I can't stockpile supplies, I'll let others stockpile for me. Opening the property owners group. There were over 1,000 people in the apartment group. Yang Feng joined with a secondary account and started spamming messages. At midnight tonight, anomalous creatures will invade. Disaster is about to erupt. All owners, please stockpile supplies. Repeated 3 times. When neighbors stockpile food, I stockpile neighbors. The owner group exploded with questions, and the secondary account was immediately kicked out. Crazy. What anomalous creatures? What disaster outbreak? How did a lunatic get into the owner group? However, 3 hours later, everyone would change their minds. The horrifying and absurd events seemed to become reality, just as the message had said. Midnight. The clock struck 12. The strange descended, and the world underwent a peculiar change. Willow trees' branches cracked and withered, replaced by pitch-black thick hair swaying in the wind. Wriggling tentacles like a baby's fair arms emerged from the soil, reaching toward the sky. Flesh tumor. Distorted lumps swelled, growing on building walls and bushes, on asphalt roads, on tree trunks. Disaster is about to erupt. A disaster erupts. Countdown 24 hours. The city descends into madness as countless flesh tumors appear throughout. A mass of filthy organic matter crawls along the side of a building, leaving behind a long trail of On an ancient gnarled tree, clusters of spherical organic matter are densely packed, resembling the eyes of some creature watching people with a chilling gaze. The crowd screams in unease, many feeling nauseous, retching up their late-night snacks. A sense of dread fills the air. A shiver runs down the spine. It feels as if Pandora's box has been opened and a terrifying force is gradually influencing the real world. Yang Feng pulls out his phone and sends a message in the WeChat group. The chaotic scenes outside, the fleeing crowd, and the strange monsters are undeniable facts. Putting down the phone, Yang Feng's lips curl slightly, his eyes glimmering with excitement. The distortion of the spirit. My opportunity has come. Having endured a decade of a dark apocalypse, countless sacrifices led him to gradually uncover the ultimate cause of the mutations. Everything has a spirit. Every thread of consciousness, every fleeting thought, every spirit leaves traces in the world. Every death, every withering tree, every slaughtered pig or cow also leaves behind filth. Small accumulations lead to a greater whole. Sand builds a tower. Be it negative or positive thoughts accumulating too much energy, the earth can no longer bear it. The river of life has been choked with gravel and impurities. It has exploded. The twisted spirit surges like a volcanic eruption. This is a cataclysmic flood. This is the asteroid that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. This is Earth cleansing itself with a refreshing bath. I must find the most suitable, extraordinary ability. Yang Feng searches carefully, observing the writhing organic matter. Those viscous, filthy organic cysts actually harbor even greater energy, capable of nurturing twisted, aberrant monsters. Yang Feng knows. Within some tumors lie countless abilities coveted by evolvers, special organs that can significantly enhance human strength. Suddenly, a pool of viscous green liquid appears in his line of sight, lying near a garbage bin. The energy brewing inside is purer, and a deformed palm seems to be growing from within the tumor. Green. Jade quality far from my requirements. Yang Feng retracts his gaze, continuing to search for higher-grade tumors against the tide of fleeing people, aiming to find the most evil and powerful type. Above a traffic light, a deep blue tumor hangs down. Its energy has reached a certain purity, transforming into a texture reminiscent of sea-patterned stone. Inside there seems to be a thick, beast-like thigh, its outline gradually becoming clearer, the flesh bulging, densely exuding a sense of strength. Blue sea pattern. The quality is decent, but I have no use for it at the moment. Yang Feng finds this higher quality thigh, but still turns away. Having returned to the pre-apocalyptic era, he must find the strongest type. Look, what is that? An eye? It looks like an eye. A large crowd gathers near a bar where a massive chunk of deep purple tumor material sits on the roof, forming a circular object inside. It resembles the eye of some creature with a bizarre, deep purple slit pupil, sending a chilling sensation through the body when gazed upon. Deep. Evil. Seeing this sinister slit pupil, Yang Feng's heart trembles slightly. Purple illusion crystal. This quality is rare. If a mutant can grow relying on it, it could easily topple an army. In the memory of slaughter, he vividly remembers the terror of those mutants, their horrifying abilities, indiscriminately killing humans. Even an entire army could be easily wiped out. Jade blue sea pattern purple illusion crystal blood body. Different purities of corpse tumors will birth organs of varying strengths, and the abilities they bring will determine your future status. The strong reign supreme. Either become prey or become the hunter. Purple illusion quality is rare, and blood body is even more extraordinarily rare. Yang Feng harbors great ambition, with 24 hours remaining until the apocalypse erupts. If he can obtain blood bota level organs, he will sweep through the entire apocalypse. Of course, there is a saying that a person's heart is insatiable as a snake swallowing an elephant. Corpse tumors are dangerous. They will exist within the host, retaining a dangerous and filthy consciousness, competing for territory, tearing and devouring flesh, and waiting to seize the brain, becoming deformed, twisted monsters. For the first evolution, one must be cautious, striving to subdue only one ability. The higher the quality, the better. Gritting his teeth, he reluctantly left the scene. Yang Feng pulls out his phone, scrolling through his friend's circle, where everyone is frantically taking and sending various pictures. Strange tumors. Creeping, writhing organic matter. Yang Feng searches through the images, hoping to find the blood body he dreams of. Suddenly a photo freezes. It is a tree. This tree is quite famous locally, said to be over 2,000 years old, with its bark forming a vague dragon pattern. Thus many people refer to it as the dragon pattern ancient tree. In the center of the dragon pattern ancient tree, a vague black tumor emits an eerie sheen. It seems to be enveloped in a layer of hazy mist. Within the tumor is a distorted face, horrifying to behold. Could this be dark gold? It is said that above the purity of blood body there exists an even more special organ, condensing pure malevolence, shimmering with a golden hue amidst chaos and darkness. Dark gold. It is unique, possessing unbelievable power, a product that exists only in legends. This is what I must find. Yang Feng's pupils dilate as he quickly spots an electric scooter nearby, rushing towards the dragon pattern ancient tree. Half an hour later, beneath the dragon pattern ancient tree, people continuously take pictures with their phones, posting scenes of wonder in their friend circles. Upon closer inspection, a mass of pitch-black organic matter rides within, which outline some exceptionally special patterns, slowly forming a distorted human face. It sometimes wails. It sometimes laughs maniacally. It sometimes casts a scornful glance at the crowd. It sometimes gazes down as if seeing through the world. Dark gold, the most mysterious, seemingly existing only in legends, an organ coveted by countless survivors of the apocalypse. Without hesitation, Yang Feng steps over the railing, grabs onto the nearby ladder bridge, and in a few quick steps reaches the center of the trunk, approaching the mass of organic matter. With a thrust, Yang Feng's palm pierces directly into the flesh mass. He yanks out a black mask that constantly changes shape from within the organic matter. What are you doing? What is that thing? Show us, don't run away. People around, eager to see what he has taken, try to... Yang Feng doesn't waste words. He delivers a fierce kick to the stomach of the leader, his heel sinking several centimeters deep, the intense pain causing him to double over on the ground, crying out, "Get lost!" His eyes, filled with murderous intent along with a roar, instantly intimidate the surrounding onlookers. Yang Feng quickly hops onto the nearby electric scooter, racing back to his apartment. Good. Before the apocalypse has erupted, I have found such a high-level artifact. Yang Feng held a mask in his hand, its expression constantly shifting, revealing a peculiar eeriness. Yang Feng glanced at the clock. There were still over 10 hours until the apocalypse. Let's do this. Yang Feng sat on the edge of the bed, holding the mask and covering it over his cheek. In an instant, as the mask touched his skin, black, bizarre substances deeply pierced into his pores, transforming into countless thin tendrils that burrowed inward. Parasitism, usurpation, possession. These mutated eerie substances can turn humans into terrifying monsters, tearing apart the host's consciousness and replacing it. Piercing into the brain. Countless absurd images appeared one after another, soothing the emotions, while also completely numbing the host's consciousness, leading to its total obliteration. Are you going to obliterate my consciousness? With you? Do you think you can obliterate my consciousness? Invade my body. Yang Feng's entire face was covered by the mask, yet his twisted and grotesque features could still be discerned, laughing maniacally in an exaggerated manner. Betrayed by everyone. I have been betrayed before. I resisted monsters and aberrations heeding, yet daggers stabbed me in the back. My face was pressed into the mud, losing all dignity amidst the laughter of everyone's shame. In the filthy sewer, I licked my wounds like a wild dog. Yang Feng spread his arms, memories of his past flooding his mind, and his consciousness became increasingly resolute, akin to steel. Do you know how many people I have slaughtered? Do you know how many of your kind I have torn apart? Endless slaughter, relentless carnage, cutting through thorns and mountains of corpses. Do you think you can erode my consciousness? Yang Feng covered his face with one hand, yet his eyes became even more frenzied, manic, as though he were not human. Usurp me? You are mistaken. It is I who shall seize your power. Yang Feng roared, his killing intent surging like a dam, bursting an endless river, transforming into a flood, assaulting the remaining consciousness of the mask, shattering the dark gold-grade artifact. Bring it all to me. This was a clash of pure consciousness, and Yang Feng held absolute advantage, thoroughly shredding the contaminated remnants within the mask. Power. Dark gold mask larval stage, the most mysterious level of artifact, finally in my hand. Yang Feng's entire face was enveloped in pure black, his jaw opening at an almost 90-degree angle, revealing a mouth full of sharp teeth. No eyes, no nostrils, no ears. Yet through this face one could see everything around them with utmost clarity. It seemed capable of forming a holistic mirror image that embraced all, like radar, revealing everything hidden vividly, presenting it in his mind. Color, sound, taste. These are all information. The multidimensional interpretation of information allows one to sense the target's scent and shape through sound, vibrations, color, and size. In other words, Yang Feng could hear colors and tastes, could see sounds, and sense, could taste the fear and consciousness of others. Oh, this feels really good. It's as if I am a god on a cloud, overlooking the world from a third perspective. Is this the ability of the mask? As the apocalypse strikes, every corner of the world becomes a battlefield, adhering to the laws of the jungle, where the weak are preyed upon by the strong. Mastering information and intelligence means having already won half the battle. Truly a dark gold-grade ability. Truly a dark gold-grade artifact. Even in its larval stage, it has already reached such formidable levels. In the 10 years of dark apocalypse, Yang Feng's memories reveal that parasitic organs evolve not only in purity and grade, but also in form. Larval stage, growing stage, mature stage, complete stage, gaining enough energy that meets the conditions for evolution can allow it to grow again, as some extremely dangerous creatures can even exceed the boundaries of the complete stage. With a thought, the black mask gradually peeled away from his face. A special mask mark appeared on his brow, and his face returned to a normal state, appearing indistinguishable from a human. In reality, he had already become an evolved being, and an evolved being possessing the strongest artifact. Is the time almost here? Yang Feng took out his phone. There was only 1 hour left until the midnight of the apocalypse. Though the time he spent subduing the mask seemed short, the battle of will against the filth had already raged for over 10 hours. Fortunately, the entire city's police force is maintaining order, otherwise, after heavily injuring Cheng Ziji yesterday, there could have been more trouble. My friend's circle is going crazy. Yang Feng flipped through his friend's circle. As time passed, people were no longer in panic like at first, but began to study those organic substances. Many people gathered around the writhing organic matter, starting to take pictures, even to pose for selfies. Some elderly folks took out brooms and sticks, knocking them away. Astonishingly, someone even used a kitchen knife to cut off a large piece to take back for study. This is a meat spirit mushroom. Eating it can prolong life. Brothers, look at this crystal clear piece of meat. There's even a pig's trotter inside. If I get 3,000 likes, I'll do a live stream to show you. Not just on friend circles. Various apps are even more outrageous. Some daring individuals have already started to take action, even attempting to live stream cooking, or worse, sashimi. No regard for life. In an era of entertainment to death, gaining views and attention, earning quick money seems more important than their own lives. The video you played has been deleted. Dear citizens, for your health, please do not touch unknown organic substances, experts have pointed out. Most excessive videos have been deleted by the platform. Warnings broadcasted and text messages were constantly being released, but regarding the sudden abnormal situation, worldwide civilized order had begun to show signs of fatigue. The property group also reacted strongly. Everyone received the news in advance and hoarded a lot. Yang Feng opened the property group of his apartment, Since he had tipped them off in advance, everyone was immediately aware of the news. Before people could react, all the neighbors in the building rushed out of their homes, clearing out the nearby 24-hour supermarket. I bought 5 bags of rice, 10 packs of ham, and 3 boxes of instant noodles. Look at the photos I sent. Luckily, someone reminded me. I bought 200 pounds of flour and this box of Village Fresh eggs. Unfortunately, I arrived late. When you went, the supermarket had hardly any people, but when I went, it was already a sea of people, and I only managed to grab 5 boxes of self-heating pots. Yang Feng looked at the lively scene in the group, nodding in satisfaction. Neighbors hoarding food, I hoard neighbors. He logged into his alternate account, then secretly joined the group, starting to spread other news. Monsters will appear tonight. Quickly lock the downstairs door, and some barriers need to be established in the corridor. Monsters will appear tonight. Quickly lock the downstairs door, and some barriers need to be established in the corridor. The news sparked another uproar. Monsters appearing. Locking doors. Who is spouting nonsense? Who is having a breakdown? What are you spamming? Kick them out. Oh, isn't this the big shot who sent out the news in advance? Thank you, hands clasped in gratitude. Oh, luckily, thanks to your news, I managed to grab 10 boxes of instant noodles. So will there really be monsters tonight? Better to believe it than not. Quickly lock the doors. Everyone come help. Yang Feng watched the messages in the group. Oh, logically, no one would believe such a neurotic message. But now it is different. Having experienced the invasion of abnormal creatures and the previous advance notice, some people had no choice but to choose to believe and immediately took action. Set up defenses in advance. In the early stages of the apocalypse, we should be able to hold on. I hope they can be of some use. Yang Feng casually tossed his phone aside, revealing a cruel smile, then turned to look out the window. The apocalypse. It's coming. It has come. The apocalypse has arrived. At midnight, 12 o'clock. As if the sound of a deep bell echoed throughout the city. A beam of aurora streaked across the sky, colorful and lustrous, as if reflecting an infinitely extending galaxy, breathtakingly beautiful and intoxicating. Mom, look. Aurora, just like on the TV. A pure-hearted little girl pointed at the colorful aurora in the sky, excitedly jumping up and drawing her family's attention. Yang Feng squinted his eyes, gazing at the stunning scenery, yet his emotions were exceedingly complex. The Sea of Life. That was the embodiment of the Sea of Life. Every blade of grass, every tree and flower possesses spirit. Whether human, plant, or the flying and crawling creatures, all return to their original place after death. The Sea of Life. It is omnipresent. It belongs to another world. All memories left by living beings will be cleansed in the Sea of Life, as if having drunk the Mengpa soup from legends, shedding all impurities. Purified spirits, after undergoing the cleansing of the Sea of Life, will descend once more. They become flowers, grass, birds, beasts, little insects in the soil, or children in incubators at hospitals. There are too many pebbles. Too many pebbles need cleansing. Entertainment, desire, money, power, pain, struggle, helplessness, collapse, extinction. All thoughts and emotions generated, the residual filth has infected the entire Sea of Life, bringing the whole ecosystem to the brink of collapse. Tilt. The filthy pebbles can only be dumped back into the real world. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Clatter. The endless flowing light in the sky resembled a shattered silver vase, scattering countless sparkling pebbles, falling like a rain of light upon the earth. Beautiful. So beautiful. Golden pebbles adorned the galaxy. The rain of light was so sacred, accompanied by a gentle breeze slowly falling upon the people. So comfortable. Is this a miracle, eh? Quick, let's drink more. Maybe it can expel all ailments and prolong. Under the rain of light, people accepted the pebbles that the Sea of Life had scattered, feeling waves of comfort wash over them, warm and refreshing. They are not real rain. The light particles seeped into the skin, burrowing into the body, gradually melting and resolving. Spirit pebbles. They are filth. They are resentment. They are desires. They are the dirty things that even the Sea of Life cannot handle. Veins bulged and burst, countless bodies undergoing severe mutations, the pure spirits within polluted, leading to rampant bodily transformations. Blood-red threads filled their eyes. Greedy desires made their mouths sprout sharp teeth. Pitch-black sharp nails enveloped their fingers, extending like daggers. Ugh-ugh-ugh. Ugh-ugh-ugh. Many people emitted a low growl that was not human. With the falling of the rain of light, the invasion of filth, the consciousness of the infected grew increasingly blurred, ultimately transforming completely into monsters. Roar, 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 roar. Roar, 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 roar. Terrifying roars echoed as the monsters frantically lunged at the surrounding people, seeking to seize fresh energy. There were even more dreadful occurrences. Those grotesque flesh tumors, along with translucent organic entities sprouting bizarre and deformed substances, grew wildly under the nourishing rain of light. Monsters. Twisted creatures emerged from the flesh tumors, emitting increasingly horrifying and chilling roars. Hell. Everything below became a painting of hell. It was impossible to describe the tragic scenes. One could only see monsters chasing innocent victims, their piercing screams echoing endlessly. under the cleansing of the rain of light. The entire world seemed to be experiencing a scorching fire. Not just the mutated humans, but even plants and animals underwent unusual deformities. Flames scorched the world. This is a grand cleansing of the apocalypse. This is the ultimate reckoning of residual filth. This is a tidal wave of mutations for billions of lives. The rain of light pattered down. Yang Feng stood by the window, his cold eyes flickering, a smile of excitement gradually forming on his face. With a thought, the mark on his forehead gradually unfolded. The pitch-black hue enveloped his entire cheek, replacing his eyes, nose, and ears with a mirror-like darkness. Only an exaggerated mouth occupied a small part of his ghostly face, stretching from the root of his left ear to the root of his right ear. Opening the window, Yang Feng opened his cavernous mouth, a slimy tongue extending out to taste the rain of light falling from the eaves. Delicious, truly delicious. Spirit pebbles containing residual filthy consciousness. Whether it is the obsession with money, the thirst for power, or the twisted and mad love, all serve as the most exquisite seasonings. These negative emotions can make me stronger. The dark gold rare ghost face can devour this filth that people dread. In fact, it serves as my nutritional supplement. Yang Feng felt immensely satisfied, the ghost face once again providing him with a great surprise. The distortion of spirit. Some individuals possess resolute willpower, able to withstand the initial mutations and thus gain immense power, becoming the coveted evolvers of many. However, evolvers vary in strength. To acquire greater power, one must deepen the extent of distortion. To explain it differently, the more powerful the evolver, the more they must abandon humanity, accept special distortions, and are highly likely to ultimately become monsters. This is an unsolvable dilemma. In the dark apocalypse of 10 years, initially people craved power, but eventually they feared it, terrified of the day they could no longer hold on and become deformed and twisted abominations. But the ghost face is unafraid. It can actually use spirit pebbles as bait. This is perhaps the true strength of the dark gold-grade artifact. Hunting, killing, not a moment can be delayed. I must hunt, seize more spiritual essence, and become the strongest before anyone notices. Not a second can be wasted. Becoming stronger, 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 stronger. I will make all those who betrayed me in my past life, all those who bullied me, and all those who insulted me, pay the most tragic price, torn apart in the most brutal manner. Yang Feng arrived at the second floor of the apartment and opened the window. He looked at the decaying corpses below, chasing after the unfortunate fleeing humans, their faces twisted in agony, stepping onto the air conditioning unit and jumping down. In the alley, the rotting corpse sobs. Its jagged teeth are mismatched and brownish-yellow mucus flows from the crevices. The grotesquely twisted monster glares with bloodshot scarlet eyes, searching for prey to hunt. Bang! Yang Feng's feet hit the ground, his knees slightly bent. His body trembles faintly as the remnants of his humanity instinctively sense fear, shivering in dread. Oh, is my body afraid? Yang Feng slightly raised his hand, but a more excited expression emerged on his face. Natural enemies. The fledgling bird hides in its nest, sensing the soaring eagle in the sky, born with an instinctual fear. The spider hatches from its mother's body, lacking any guidance from its kind, yet instinctively knows how to weave webs and hunt. This is the instinct of living beings. From the moment you see your natural enemy, the instinct hidden deep within you immediately generates fear, commanding you to flee. Flee. That would be more interesting. Dancing on the edge of a sharp tightrope on the tip of a blade. I want to experience the delightful thrill of killing between life and death. Yang Feng's cells, in the throes of extreme fear, rapidly transformed into excitement, as if being scorched by flames, awakening a surge of power. The ghost face multidimensional information analysis. Haha. Yang Feng laughed maniacally, spreading his arms wide. His fingertips sensed the subtle vibrations in the air, perceiving sound transmission through touch, presenting the information in a holographic display. Sounds trembled. Light and shadow flickered. Each particle of scent was vividly alive. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7 corpses nearby in the alley, every detail fully emerged in his mind. They are coming. The first corpse to approach him came from a diagonal angle behind him. Its twisted face is lined with creases. Its long, sharp claws glisten with crimson fluid. The secretion oozing from its teeth along with the remnants of flesh. Even without turning his head, Yang Feng could sense every detail through the multidimensional information relayed by the ghost face. Wrists, elbow joints, the large veins in the armpits. Ankles, knee joints, the large veins in the thighs. Neck, spine, death points at the back of the head, temples. Yang Feng suddenly lowered his body, perfectly dodging the strike of the black claw, neither deviating nor leaving any flaw. Crack. From the corpse's body came the sound of shattering porcelain. The attacking arm drooped limply, the entire shoulder joint dislocated. Killing techniques. 10 years of apocalyptic chaos, endless life and death battles honed his combat skills to an extraordinary level. Even if his physical enhancement was not high, he was still a perfect killing machine. Crack. In the next moment, the corpse's neck was broken. Its entire body seemed to lose support, collapsing to the ground, effortlessly dispatched. I'm starting to feel it. My body is warming up. There can be no mistakes. I must not sustain any damage, and I must perfectly handle every detail. Yang Feng's face, seemingly as dark as ink and smooth as a mirror, displayed a wild and fervent madness. Excitement. Every cell screamed. The sensation of killing while dancing on the edge of a blade was so exquisite. More? Let me feel more. Yang Feng faced several corpses at once. The sounds of battle attracted more monsters, all rushing toward him. A waltz. Yang Feng seemed to be dancing. His steps were eerie. Every dodge allowed him to evade the most lethal attacks. His counterattacks were clean and decisive, viciously targeting the enemy's most vulnerable points, often resulting in a single lethal blow. Thud, 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 thud. One corpse after another fell to the ground. Some had their necks broken, some had their temples crushed by thumbs, and others had their arms dislocated, stomping on the spine with great force. Inhale, exhale. Yang Feng regulated his breathing. The air in his lungs felt as if it were burning. His heart raced violently, reminiscent of a reclusive gamer suddenly needing to run a marathon. Is it already too much for my body? Yang Feng's lips curled slightly, his exaggerated mouth cracking open, his sticky tongue licking the sweat from his face. The human body is truly marvelous. Continue to squeeze, continue to squeeze. There will always be potential to be uncovered. Yang Feng did not cease fighting, but continued to slaughter the surrounding corpses, fully extracting the remaining potential value of his body. Soon after, the alley was filled with the remains of corpses. Yang Feng's ghostly face with its gaping mouth gasped for air, his entire body radiating a sense of overexertion and soreness, with a fine layer of sweat covering his skin. Exhilarating. This battle was truly exhilarating. Before completely exhausting his strength, he had taken down over 40 corpses, nearly filling the alley. Time to reap the rewards. Seizing the moment when no other monsters approached, he took out the prepared bone-slicing knife. Thud. With a gentle stab at the death point at the back of his head, a moist flesh tumor was extracted, resembling a beating heart, still warm in his palm. Flesh tumor. After a monster's death, there is a chance to form a substance known as a flesh tumor. It is a conglomerate of spiritual essence gravel which gathers in the most vital areas of the host after death. Generally, monsters form it at the back of the neck. 1/10. Ordinary corpses have about a 1/10 chance of producing flesh tumors. After the outbreak of the apocalyptic disaster, having undergone a series of mutations, flesh tumors that can enhance the strength of the evolved have almost become a hard currency. Soon, Yang Feng had acquired 8 flesh tumors. His luck was exceptional, perhaps because the apocalypse had just begun. His harvest far exceeded the average. My stamina is depleted. I should head back now. Yang Feng packed away the flesh tumors, glanced again at the corpses gradually surging from the alley entrance, withdrew his gaze, and climbed towards the air conditioning unit on the second floor, returning to the apartment corridor through the window. Disengaging from the ghost face state. The first hunt was quite successful, revealing a satisfied expression. Yang Feng vaguely remembered that in his previous life, when faced with the apocalypse, his cowardice prevented him from even stepping outside. Killing the first corpse was a week after the disaster began. He shed tears of humiliation and fear, using an iron rod to smash the first monster to death in a state of near collapse and despair. This life is different. Yang Feng is the returning king of slaughter, beginning with a royal blast. Help! Hurry and assist, come help. We can't hold this side any longer, we need 2 more people. At that moment, cries for help emerged from the second floor emergency exit. The apartment door was locked, but monsters still breached the barriers, rushing in through the side door. Some cried out in despair. Some were dragged down the stairs by corpses. A man with a kitchen knife charged in to slash. Others moved heavier appliances to completely block the emergency exit. But more were weaklings, covering their heads and crying, trembling in fear, fleeing in every direction to hide in their own apartments. Yang Feng withdrew his gaze and shrugged. I'm all sweaty, I should go take a shower first. The hearts of the people were in turmoil. The screams of agony echoed incessantly. In the safety corridor on the second floor, the shouts and roars of men battling monsters filled the air. A heavy hardwood table, expensive leather sofas, and bookshelves strewn with various books were all pushed toward. Save me. I'm still down here, don't block the way. Let me up, ah. The safety corridor on the second floor was ultimately blocked tight, yet the men holding the front turned around, their eyes filled with extreme rage. Betrayal. A knife in the back. You are holding off the monsters in front while the others block the escape route. Amid the curses and screams, crimson liquid seeped from the gaps in the furniture. The voices of the men faded away, replaced by terrifying chewing sounds. What a familiar plot. Yang Feng sighed slightly. The apocalypse had just begun, yet a grand show was already unfolding. This was under the condition that he had warned them in advance. Yang Feng had long sent out messages urging them to lock the apartment doors, block the safety corridor with heavy objects, and build defensive structures. Fortunately, the front door was indeed locked, otherwise a flood of rotting corpses would have surged in, and those few brutes would have been unable to withstand it, potentially resulting in the entire building being slaughtered. My. Yang Feng's apartment was on the 4th floor, room 405. At this moment, however, some strangers were sitting in the corridor, their faces filled with terror as they leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. Survivors. Were these people refugees who had escaped from the street and burst into the safety corridor? Click. The door to room 407 opened. A beautiful girl appeared. Her bright eyes were pure, her long black hair gave her a quiet appearance, yet she looked like someone who often exercised with a slender and vibrant figure. Su Man. Yang Feng remembered this neighbor, as she had a kind heart and was not suited for survival in the apocalypse. Here, Su Man took out some clean towels and handed them to the surrounding pitiful refugees. Please wait a moment. I'll get you some food as well. Su Man ran back to her room, bringing out some instant noodles and preparing hot water for the refugee survivors. The survivors in the corridor repeatedly expressed their gratitude, trembling as they accepted the instant noodles, almost wanting to bow to Su Man. What a good person. What a truly good person. Yet Yang Feng shook his head inwardly. As the saying goes in the apocalypse, the first to be killed are the saints. Kindness itself is not wrong, but when the saintly heart acts up, some saintly individuals can do extremely foolish things. Indecisiveness. Not understanding what to sacrifice. In her pursuit of kindness, wanting to save everyone but unable to provide practical solutions often leads to more deaths. Yang Feng, you're back. Did you just go down to help, eh? Su Man's face lit up upon seeing Yang Feng, and she trotted over to him. There are too many refugees here. I don't have much supplies. Can I ask you to help them too? Su Man showed a pleading look, her pure bright eyes sparkling with hope and kindness. Click. Yang Feng opened the door to his room. Look, completely empty. I haven't stockpiled anything, not a single resource. Yang Feng shrugged while Su Man's expression turned somewhat surprised. Huh, didn't you see the property group? There were big shots who reminded us to stock up on supplies. Su Man took out her phone and showed Yang Feng several chat records. Yang Feng certainly knew. Those seemingly crazy messages were sent by him using a secondary account. I didn't see them. Leaning against the door frame, Yang Feng's eyes held a hint of mockery. Su Man, you are truly kind. You've helped so many people, why not? Help me too. Su Man was momentarily stunned. A hint of bitterness appeared on her face, but gritting her teeth, she turned and ran back to her own room, returning with a few boxes of self-heating hot pot. I don't know if you have any dietary restrictions or what flavor you like. Su Man lowered her head as she handed over the boxes of self-heating hot pot. Thanks. Yang Feng didn't wait for her to finish speaking, grabbed the boxes of food and turned back to his room. Bang. A muffled thud was the only response Su Man received from the cold door. What kind of person is this? So inconsiderate. Exactly what a scumbag. She gives you food, and you have this attitude. The surrounding refugees couldn't bear to watch any longer. Whispering discussions began expressing their displeasure for Su Man. It's okay. But Su Man only smiled bitterly. We're neighbors helping each other. Do you need anything else? Truly foolish. Yang Feng returned to his bed, his body aching all over. The recent battle had exhausted every bit of his potential, and his muscles had reached their limit. The apocalypse had erupted. At first, people could maintain their rationality and sustain a civilization on the brink of collapse. But as time passed, resources became increasingly scarce, and twisted dark hearts began to surface. By then, the group of refugee survivors outside would no longer be grateful to you. They would transform into ravenous beasts, mercilessly tearing apart the little lambs. It doesn't matter, as long as it doesn't provoke me otherwise. Yang Feng's eyes flickered with killing intent. Whoever dared to provoke him would see what a true ferocious beast was. Corpse tumors. Yang Feng took out the 8 corpse tumors from his pocket. These corpse tumors contained a large amount of spiritual essence, a collection of the luminous rain that fell from the sky. These corpse tumors could make a person stronger, granting some special abilities. They could also serve as fuel bait, becoming food for existing organs, and when accumulated to a certain extent, could allow them to evolve again. Demon Face Juvenile. The dark gold-grade organ required a quantity of consumed corpse tumors that exceeded several levels. After devouring enough corpse tumors, it would undergo a metamorphosis. Growth stage. Once breaking through the juvenile's limitations, a comprehensive qualitative change in abilities would be welcomed. The imprint on Yang Feng's forehead unfurled. A pitch-black, smooth, mirror-like surface covered his cheek, splitting open a mouth that extended to his ear, from which a slimy tongue emerged. He swallowed all 8 corpse tumors at once. Corpse tumors. Spiritual essence. The energy contained within quickly melted and dissolved. The demon face completely devoured them, and a flow of heat poured out, invigorating his weary body and strengthening his most basic functions. Oh, The demon face not only accumulates energy from devouring these corpse tumors, it can also slightly enhance the body. Yang Feng was somewhat surprised. The demon face not only possessed the ability of multidimensional information analysis, but could also use a small portion of the energy it devoured to enhance the physical body. The sensation of muscle soreness gradually dissipated. The fatigue throughout his body slowly faded away. Fatty energy was largely absorbed to reinforce the body's basic functions. Within just a few hours, his bodily strength had risen to a new level, although it was far from surpassing human limits. However, Yang Feng's body was comparable to that of a provincial-level athlete who had trained for years. At least he wouldn't be gasping for breath after just a little exercise. The sound of rushing water filled the air. The shower sprayed warm streams of water. Sweat dripped from Yang Feng's body, along with a multitude of impurities, forming a swirling puddle of filth at his feet, which eventually flowed towards the drain. Most of the spiritual essence has been absorbed by the ghost mask. A minuscule amount of the essence has strengthened my physical body. In just a few hours, it can replace the results of over a decade of arduous training. If I go through this process one more time, I might be comparable to a national-level athlete and eventually surpass the limits of the human body. Yang Feng calculated the extent of his physical enhancement. The hunting operations must not stop. He must remain at the forefront. The mark was burning hot. The ghost mask had devoured 8 corpse tumors. It seemed to be digesting this energy, and I needed to give it some time. I must plan my schedule. During the nights when the monsters are most active, it's suitable to leave the apartment for hunting, while during the day, I need sufficient rest and allow the ghost mask time to digest the spiritual essence. My goal should focus on stronger aberrations. Yang Feng's eyes shimmered. Killing a large number of decaying corpses was nothing significant, but those aberrations with immense power and severely mutated bodies were the true targets for hunting. Excitement surged within him. Just the thought of battling more powerful aberrations made his body tremble with anticipation. A light sound echoed as Yang Feng turned off the shower valve. The apocalypse had just begun and water resources were still abundant. Although the network had collapsed, the power and water systems continued to supply automatically. The power would completely fail about 1 to 2 weeks after the apocalypse. The water system could last a bit longer until it was contaminated by numerous corpses and the abnormal beings clogged the filters. Yang Feng recalled that in the early stages of the disaster, humanity still had a breathing space. Aberrations also needed time to grow. Larvae, juvenile, mature, complete form. Aberrations also had to undergo this process, and the stronger the monster, the more energy it required, meaning more humans needed to be hunted. When humans are insufficient, powerful aberrations will also hunt their kind, lurking in the darkest places, waiting for humans to walk into their traps. That is the darkest and most dangerous phase of the apocalypse. All right, find every possible way to become stronger. Yang Feng felt rejuvenated as he made his plans, stretching comfortably. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Although Yang Feng did not use the powers of the ghost mask, he could still sense that the person outside was Su Man. With a slight frown, Yang Feng opened the door and coldly said, "What do you want?" "The child is terrified. They have no place to stay. Can they temporarily stay with you?" Before Su Man could finish, Yang Feng raised a hand and said in an "The child is terrified. They have no place to stay. Can they temporarily stay with you?" Before Su Man could finish, Yang Feng raised a hand and said in an even colder tone, "No." Su Man looked somewhat wronged. The mother and child behind her gazed at Yang Feng with pleading eyes. Many other refugees nearby turned their attention towards this scene. Disgust, disdain, despicable. Yang Feng's cold demeanor resembled that of a villain who remained unmoved while others suffered. "What's wrong? Do you want to moralize me?" Yang Feng scoffed, his eyes filled with mockery, remaining indifferent to the sharp gazes of those around him. "I didn't mean that. I'm sorry." Su Man's eyes revealed disappointment as she said sorry and turned to leave. Some refugees in the corridor could no longer stand by. "What is this? Just a moment ago she gave you a self-heating hot pot and food, and now you've forgotten. I've long been fed up with you." A strong, burly man stood up and walked towards Yang Feng, grabbing his collar. "You either return the self-heating hot pot and apologize to Su Man, or you let that mother and child stay in your place." Yang Feng narrowed his eyes, revealing a hint of murderous intent. Openly, with a righteous demeanor, this man seemed to be the embodiment of justice, raising a hammer of righteousness. "Let go," Yang Feng said softly, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "If I don't let go, what can you do?" Before the burly man could finish his sentence, Yang Feng's hand grasped his thumb and forcefully twisted it outward. Crack! The sound of shattering porcelain echoed as the burly man's body bent in pain. Yang Feng's gaze was lowered, but the glimmer of sharpness occasionally revealed was piercing. He did not intend to spare this man. He kicked forward sharply, stomping on the fragile bones of his bent knee, resulting in an even louder sound of shattering porcelain resonating through the corridor. "Oh!" The man let out a scream akin to a slaughtered pig, his entire calf twisted grotesquely. Yet Yang Feng showed no signs of stopping. His fist swung heavily into the man's face. A few teeth shattered and fell to the ground stained with blood. Bang! Yang Feng grabbed the man's head and slammed it against the wall. A bloodstain appeared on the wall, and the man's nose completely collapsed, making his face a ghastly sight. Brutal, ruthless, clean and swift. There was not a single unnecessary movement. Each strike sent a pang of pain through the onlookers, who even covered their eyes in fear. You? Su Man was utterly shocked, unsure of what to say. Yet Yang Feng merely raised his head, his cold and sharp gaze sweeping over the surroundings like a knife, piercing through people's hearts. No one dared to meet his gaze for even half a second. This is what is called using an example to warn others. This display was even more brutal and vicious than directly killing that man. Don't mess with me. Yang Feng only uttered 4 words in the end. The corridor fell silent. Even the sound of a needle dropping could be heard, followed by the heavy sound of a door slamming. The child cried in fear. The mother quietly comforted him, carrying the child to a farther place, afraid of provoking that demon. The men were stunned. They involuntarily distanced themselves from room 405, unwilling to have any entanglement. The righteous man who lay on the ground received no aid. He curled up and wept quietly on the floor. Why was this man so cold-blooded? Was he a demon? Why was he permitted to act so lawlessly? People's hearts were filled with confusion, but one thing was certain: never provoke the man from room 405, or it could lead to fatal consequences. Yang Feng returned to his room and lay back down on his small bed. After a brief rest, he closed his eyes to rejuvenate himself. When midnight arrives, it will be time for the next hunt. Midnight. The hunting time has arrived. The ghostly mask unfolded, covering Yang Feng's face. It was as dark as ink and smooth as a mirror, with only a brutal blood-red maw waiting to devour its prey. A holographic 3-dimensional image appeared in Yang Feng's mind, opening his window and leaping from the air conditioning unit on the 4th floor balcony to the 3rd floor. Bang! Yang Feng's knees slightly bent, landing perfectly. It seemed a very dangerous act, but for Yang Feng, who had complete control over his body and projected the holographic image, it was quite effortless. He moved like a cat. Bouncing a few times on the air conditioning unit, he had already dropped from the 4th floor to the 1st floor. In the dark corner, faint rustling sounds could be heard. Several decayed corpses lay on the ground, gnawing on something, likely another unfortunate soul. This time my physical condition has improved significantly. I should be able to hunt more. Yang Feng muttered to himself, strolling leisurely towards the several decaying corpses crouched on the ground. Ugh ugh ugh. The corpses raised their heads, slightly whimpering softly, discovering the human before them. Too late. Yang Feng moved swiftly, his thumb slightly protruding, smashing horizontally into the temple, his thumb perfectly shattering it, crimson fluid bursting forth. A few minutes later, all the corpses in the alley had been eliminated. The remains of the corpses hunted yesterday, combined with today's new targets, nearly filled the alley with debris. Let's start cleaning from the inside out. This alley connects to the small courtyard of the apartment. Let's eliminate them. Yang Feng crouched in the shadows, observing the situation. Recklessly appearing in the vast street was clearly a foolish act. First, he would clear the corpses in the small courtyard of the apartment to make his living environment safer. A gentle breeze brushed his face. Shared bicycles were tipped over in a row. Electric bikes were haphazardly parked near the charging station, and he could faintly see a large number of wandering corpses nearby, whimpering and growling. With a peculiar gait, Yang Feng's footsteps were lighter than a cat's, leaving no sound. He was like a hunter in the darkness, silently approaching his prey, swiftly taking down the corpses near the electric bikes. 1, 2, 3. 27. Yang Feng continuously killed nearly 30 corpses without a single monster noticing him. Every assassination was flawlessly executed. Huff. My lungs still feel fine. My heartbeat is still normal. Counting the dozens of corpses he had slain in the alley, the number was already comparable to yesterday, but his body remained in an excited state, feeling a sense of unfulfilled desire. Danger. Suddenly, a sense of danger flooded his body. A monster lurked in the darkness, waiting for him to walk into its trap. A variant. It was a special monster that surpassed ordinary corpses, with a body that had undergone deformation. Ghostly face. Nothing could escape the ability of multidimensional information analysis. Yang Feng could sense its location. The image gradually became clearer, showcasing its sharp fangs and claws completely in the holographic image. Runner stage larva, rare, grade green emerald. The runner is a variant evolved from corpses. Its entire body muscles had been enhanced to a certain extent, with speed comparable to a national-level athlete. Its bone protrusions had formed sharp blades capable of inflicting significant damage. Yang Feng remembered the data on the runner. It was a relatively low-level variant in its larval form, but it was still very dangerous for an evolutionist just stepping into the threshold. Never let your guard down. Yang Feng exhaled deeply. He suddenly exerted force with his feet, accelerating towards the shadow in the darkness. Whoosh! A cold light sliced through the shadow. The runner's entire palm converged and contracted, growing into a bone blade that was a meter long. It turned into a blade, grazing Yangfeng's cheek, even cutting off a few strands of hair, a close call that was nerve-wracking. Crack! Yangfeng seized the runner's arm. His feet rooted to the ground like ancient trees. A surge of strength erupted from his thighs, forcing his hands to twist with great force. With one strike, the runner's arm joint was dislocated. Roar! The runner let out a painful and furious howl, opening its bloody maw to bite at Yangfeng's face. Roar! Yangfeng also let out a furious roar, his ghostly face splitting open wider, revealing an even more exaggerated mouth, and he attempted to bite back at the runner. Bite! Who can't do that? Yangfeng's ghostly face was dark gold grade, and those sharp-pointed teeth were undoubtedly sturdier than the runner's. Uft! A crisp, tearing sound echoed. Filthy crimson liquid burst forth, a chunk of flesh ripped apart and casually tossed into the nearby bushes, while the runner lost half of its face. It was terrified. It was thoroughly frightened. The runner displayed a terrifying emotion, turning to flee, but Yangfeng would not give it that opportunity. He kicked at the runner's knee from behind, forcing half of its body to kneel and causing it to lose its balance entirely. Crosshold! Yangfeng lunged forward, grabbing the remaining arm while his thighs tightened around the runner's neck, continuously exerting force. Finally, a sound like shattering porcelain rang out. The runner ceased to resist, became silent, and lay on the ground lifeless. Hunting success. Spiritual essence flowed like sand. Even in its larval form, the green emerald grade variant contained dozens of times more spiritual essence than an ordinary corpse. A large amount of spiritual essence gathered and finally formed a vibrant green corpse tumor near the tip of its palm knife. Yangfeng collected it. 7 ordinary corpse tumors. 1 green emerald grade corpse tumor. Tonight's harvest was quite abundant. After cleaning up the aftermath, Yangfeng started to retrace his steps along the alley. He climbed up the air conditioning unit, using the adjacent pipes for leverage, quickly returning to his room. This time, he did not immediately consume the corpse tumors, but was instead deep in thought. Yangfeng had 10 years of experience in the apocalypse. He knew deeply that the more powerful the organ, the more spiritual essence it required to evolve. A green emerald grade organ might only need a few corpse tumors to complete its first metamorphosis. A blue sea pattern grade organ would require even more, devouring dozens to complete its first evolution. As for the phantom purple grade and blood bodhi, need I say more? It was practically an endless pit. It seems I can't afford to nurture a dark gold grade ghostly face. Yangfeng realized he was facing a problem. The ghostly face devoured corpse tumors like they were candy, showing no signs of metamorphosis. An endless pit. A true endless pit. Continuing to feed this bottomless pit brought very low returns. I should first cultivate some other abilities. Enhance combat strength, improve hunting efficiency, and then slowly nurture the ghostly face. Yangfeng made his decision and then took out the corpse tumors he obtained from hunting the runner, applying slight pressure to crush them. Spiritual essence. The emerald green spiritual essence permeated his skin and drilled into his spiritual essence. The emerald green essence permeated the skin, penetrating into the bones. Bone blade juvenile. One of Yangfeng's hands began to change, with bone fingers visibly growing sharper black. Is this all there is? The sharp nails resembled steel blades, much harder than the claws of a rotting corpse, yet still failed to satisfy Yangfeng's desires. Consider it a gift. Yangfeng took out the remaining 7 pieces, crushing them and scattering them onto his palm, which were quickly absorbed by the bone blade, beginning a new transformation. Metamorphosis. The bone blade received sufficient energy and surprisingly began a new transformation. It was no longer just nails, but directly grew out from the center of the finger bones, razor-sharp blades resembling polished steel, reflecting a metallic sheen. 5 fingers. 5 bone blades. Bone blade growth stage. A new organ, a new weapon, and it had directly progressed from the juvenile stage into a more powerful growth phase. Emerald grade organs, although weak in the late apocalypse, were still usable as temporary measures in the early stage. The bone blade had already formed. However, this new organ was somewhat unruly, continuing to corrode the bones, attempting to burrow deeper into the forearm to expand its space. These distorted organs, formed from spiritual essence, bring immense power, but also present very difficult negative effects to manage. Disobedient. They might continually erode your body until you are completely transformed into a monster. Are you trying to rebel? Yangfeng's ghostly face covered his own, his sticky tongue flicking out to lick the bone blade, revealing a terrifying expression. Little brother, do you think this is your territory? The bone blade immediately ceased its erosion, as if a rookie soldier had encountered a 5-star general standing at attention obediently. Terrifying dominance. An extreme sense of oppression. The dark, golden, ghostly face was enough to make any organ submit. If they disobeyed, they would be devoured. Calm down. The bone blades obediently coalesced at the fingertips, 5 slender and sharp daggers ready to strike out at any moment, yet they could also be retracted back into the finger bones. Yang Feng felt quite pleased. On the second day of the apocalypse, he had gained another new ability, and it had immediately reached the growth stage. This bone blade weapon would make future hunts much easier until he found a replacement. After a short rest, Yang Feng first massaged his sore muscles and then did some stretching exercises. Continuous high-intensity combat required one to learn self-adjustment, or else the body would eventually break down. At that moment, disturbances echoed from outside the corridor. Why should I? I won't give you anything. Faintly, two groups could be heard confronting each other, with more and more people gathering, the noise growing louder. Yang Feng leaned against the door frame, looking into the corridor. A woman stood in the center, followed by several burly men wielding iron rods smeared with congealed blood, exuding an intimidating aura. The woman appeared to be in her 30s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses with a hint of arrogance in her brows, dressed in an elite professional outfit, her form-fitting short skirt revealing an alluring figure. Bai Ting. In Yang Feng's memory, she was the property manager of the entire apartment complex. Rumors often circulated among the residents suggesting that Bai Ting's position as manager relied on her connections with the developer, mistress, concubine, or some sort of power exchange. The rumors surrounding her were the subject of gossip and speculation. Looking at her provocative demeanor inevitably led one to imagine scandalous scenes, and one couldn't help but wonder how Bai Ting would act in front of her boss begging for favors. Everyone should work together. Before the rescue arrives, we should share the hardships together. I am the person in charge of the property management, responsible for collecting supplies and fairly distributing them to all survivors. Bai Ting spoke with righteousness, but her true intention was simple: to gather the supplies hoarded by the residents under the guise of fair distribution. I fought hard to get these from the supermarket. Why should I give them to you? Exactly, the supplies I've hoarded are enough for me to live for weeks. Many residents had received news in advance and hoarded a large amount of supplies, unwilling to share with others. Everyone, don't be so selfish. You may have hoarded a lot of food, but many still can't get a meal, and many children are going hungry. Bai Ting played the emotional card, standing on the moral high ground. Could you bear to let those heroes downstairs who are blocking the monsters go hungry? The opposing voices immediately weakened significantly. Could you really bear to watch those refugees starve? Could you really bear to let the heroes downstairs blocking the monsters also go hungry? Most people are hypocritical, very few are willing to be the villains, all wrapped in a layer of civilization. Opposing voices weakened greatly, but most people remained selfish, still unwilling to voluntarily contribute their supplies. I am willing to donate food. From room 407, a familiar voice called out. Su Man raised her hand, and then brought out some rice and flour along with 2 boxes of instant noodles she had hoarded. Manager Bai Ting is right. No matter what, we can't let those children go hungry. Everyone should work together. Su Man wiped the sweat from her forehead as the sunlight flickered through her slightly damp hair, making her appear even more pure and kind. The type that gets self-satisfaction. Yang Feng glanced at Su Man, revealing a look of disdain. Naive, innocent, and kind. Never experienced the harshness of society. Or perhaps likes to don the guise of kindness, and after a while it becomes hard to take off. Good. This resident understands. Rest assured, all collected supplies will be reimbursed at 3 times the market price. Our group's chairman, Mo Jianfeng, will definitely not shortchange any resident. When the rescue arrives, each person will also receive a compensation payment. Bai Ting inadvertently revealed a smug smile, continuing to boast. Mo Jianfeng. He was quite a remarkable figure. He was a well-known local wealthy man. The apartment complex's real estate was entirely managed by him, including a nearby shopping mall and all the shops on the commercial street, all belonging to that legendary figure. The words compensation payment finally eased the tense expressions of the people a little. Bai Ting gave a few signals to her subordinates. One burly man pushed a cart, while several others followed closely behind, starting to collect supplies house by house. You want hand over your supplies. Then you are selfish. Then you are uncooperative. Then you deserve to be dealt with. Several fearsome-looking burly men began to neatly place the hoarded supplies onto the cart. Even if some were reluctant, looking at the burly men's muscular physiques and the bloodied iron rods in their hands, they should know how to cooperate. Room 405. Where are your supplies? The leading burly man stood in front of Yang Feng, blocking his view like a wall. Yang Feng shrugged, casually tossing out the 2 boxes of self-heating hot pots. They're all here. You can search for yourselves. Completely empty. The burly man glanced into the room, which appeared unusually clean, clearly not like a place where things were hidden. You'd better not pull any tricks if we find out. The leading burly man cracked his knuckles, the sound like popcorn popping, clearly threatening Yang Feng. That was about enough. The cart was quickly filled, piled high with various foods and supplies resembling a small mountain. Bai Ting revealed a satisfied smile, preparing to leave with her subordinates. Wait. Just then a mocking voice came from room 405. Yang Feng smiled and pointed to his room. You have collected everything, now it's time to distribute. As for me, I'm quite poor. Is it okay to get a little more? Mockery. Yang Feng's lips curled slightly, his tone laced with a hint of derision. I am quite poor. Is it okay to share a bit more of the food with me? Yang Feng said this with an air of entitlement, his indifferent demeanor combined with a provocative tone instantly, leaving the people present in shock. Bai Ting turned around. She gently adjusted her golden-rimmed glasses, her eyes showing a hint of confusion, even doubting if she had heard correctly. Without needing to issue orders, a burly man leading from behind stepped forward, staring at Yang Feng with a more ferocious glare. Kid, I sensed something was off about you earlier. I advise you to see the situation clearly. It's best not to stir up trouble. The leading burly man raised his iron rod, pointing it threateningly at Yang Feng's head, speaking in the most menacing tone. Thud. A tearing sound followed. Yang Feng seemed to lift his palm slightly, a cold glint flashing by, and then something even more terrifying happened. An arm gripping a steel pipe spun a few times in the air before landing with a dull thud on the ground. Clang. The iron rod also fell with a thud, rolling to the side against the wall. Crimson liquid sprayed forth like a spring, and only then did the burly man react, quickly clutching his shoulder. Oh! He let out a scream akin to that of a slaughtered pig, his body collapsing to the ground, his eyes filled with intense fear as he looked at Yang Feng. Had he severed an entire arm? In that brief moment, what exactly had transpired? All that the onlookers saw was Yang Feng lifting his hand lightly, while the fearsome burly man had his arm chopped off. Don't point things at me. Yang Feng's gaze was icy and ruthless, his words chilling the surrounding atmosphere, making one shudder. Stunned, fearful, terrified, Bai Ting met Yang Feng's gaze instinctively, taking a few steps back until her back pressed against the wall. The remaining burly men also unconsciously stepped back a few paces, cold sweat trickling down their temples. They touched their backs. Their clothes were drenched in sweat. Sweat pouring down, sweat pouring down, sweat pouring down. Yesterday he was the one who did it. So brutal that man's front teeth were knocked out, his entire face twisted. Someone whispered not far away about the man in room 405 who had taught a lesson to an outsider yesterday, leaving him in a pitiful state. Today, this man was displaying his might again. Yang Feng walked over to the vicinity of the cargo cart, retrieving a ripe red apple from a box of fresh fruit. He then took out a butterfly knife, deftly spinning it in his hand, creating a dazzling array of knife shadows, which promptly split into evenly sized segments that fell into a plate. Yang Feng punctured a segment of the apple with the tip of the butterfly knife, bringing it to his mouth to chew slowly, then revealing his signature devilish smile. I will say this again. All these supplies will be left behind. You have no objections, right? Yang Feng's cold words sliced through the air like a knife, and Bai Ting could feel the immense pressure, unable to help but swallow hard. I can't explain. Before Bai Ting could finish her sentence, the butterfly knife was thrown, accurately embedding itself in the wall beside her cheek, severing a few strands of her hair. A few centimeters off would have pierced her head. Humph! Yang Feng let out a cold snort, grabbing the handle of the cart and directly pulling the cargo cart filled with supplies into his room. Bang! The door slammed shut, leaving behind the stunned onlookers, as well as the burly man on the ground writhing in agony. Neighbors hoard food, I hoard neighbors. The apocalypse has arrived. Everything is illusionary, only strength is real. No matter how much food you store, how many supplies you prepare, or how powerful your weapons are, they will ultimately be shattered by absolute power. Let's go. We should hurry. Bai Ting stared at the cold door, closing her tense nerves, finally relaxing, leaving her feeling utterly drained, nearly collapsing to the ground. The few burly men quickly helped their fallen companion, retrieving the severed arm, and swiftly left the fourth floor. The corridor soon returned to tranquility. No one was willing to approach room 405 anymore. The experiences of these past days had made people understand that a devil resided within 405, an utterly ruthless man who should not be provoked. The topic of conversation shifted to room 407. Su Man Man. Various rumors about Su Man Man spread throughout the entire floor. Holy mother bitch. What a pretender of goodness. Damn it, when others come to collect supplies, she volunteers to hand them over, ultimately getting us all in trouble. If only we could just unite and not hand over anything. Bai Ting wouldn't dare say anything, would she? A harmful person. A harmful person. A harmful person. Su Man Man's kind heart turned her into a harmful person. People always need an excuse, especially to justify their own cowardice. If it weren't for Su Man Man, I definitely wouldn't have surrendered my supplies. If it weren't for Su Man Man, I would have definitely stood up against Bai Ting and the others. If it weren't for Su Man Man, could we still fear those few burly men? If it weren't for Su Man Man, the ones who should be afraid would be Bai Ting and her group. Those few steel pipes wouldn't scare me. To justify their own cowardice and find a scapegoat to blame is undoubtedly the easiest and most satisfying way. Everyone's gaze towards Su Man Man changed, as if she were the root of all evil, the culprit behind the supplies being taken away. But the truth was even more terrifying. Their food and supplies were clearly in room 405, Yet no one dared to speak of Yang Feng's fault, nor would anyone provoke this devil. I just wanted to help. Su Man, subjected to the crowd's accusations, looked confused. Had she done something? Was it wrong to actively help others? She donated her supplies, wishing for more people to be helped, wanting more people to have food. Oh, was that wrong? She sat weakly at her doorstep. The initial pair of refugee mother and child sat opposite Su Man, and a rumble from a hungry stomach followed. Mom, I'm hungry. The child, not yet 10 years old, was hungry again, and the refugee mother looked troubled, only able to comfort. Wait until the food is distributed, then there will be something to eat. Su Man looked at the mother and child, her kindness twisting her heart in pain. Suddenly, it seemed Su Man thought of something, rushing to the kitchen and opening the fridge compartment where there were still some leftover food. As if seeking redemption, Su Man heated the remaining food and brought it to the mother and child. The child is still small, I'll let him eat first. Su Man's gaze softened, but the mother and child received the food indifferently, eating with coldness. Harmful person. It's all because of you that there is no food. Su Man heard these complaints, tears of grievance shimmering in her eyes. Yesterday, she had saved these refugees, distributing food and warm water to them. And today she became the harmful person. Harmful person. You still have food hidden. I knew your hands weren't clean. Oh, what do you mean by surrendering food when you clearly have supplies left? Holy mother bitch is still a holy mother bitch, deceiving others to surrender while keeping food for herself. The surrounding refugees, seeing the mother and child with food, turned reedied, clamoring to rush into Su Man's home. They turned the place upside down, breaking, smashing, stealing. Everyone vented their emotions, taking everything. Su Man sat helplessly in the corner, looking at the refugees, hurling insults, tears streaming down her face. She did not know what she had done wrong. Everything felt like a scene from a movie. When the gun fired, did you see who pulled the trigger? I couldn't see clearly. He stood at the moral high ground, basking in the sunlight. The night was shrouded in fog. Through the window, numerous corpses could be seen wandering aimlessly into the apartment complex. The corpses emitted low, mournful groans from their throats, and beneath the torn, decaying flesh, the distorted essence was still not fully digested, making the monstrous masses appear like clusters of glowing sticks akin to swarms of fireflies gathering together. Corpses, the lowest tier of monsters. In a few days, once they completely absorb the spiritual essence, their physical strength will rise to another level, making them even more troublesome to deal with. Yang Feng observed from above. The apocalypse had erupted and countless beings began a grotesque evolutionary race. Whether they were mutated corpses or bizarre beasts, all were undergoing intensified mutations. Navigating against the current without progress, one regresses. We need to accelerate hunting efficiency. Yang Feng readied himself, opened the window, and jumped down, skillfully landing on the air conditioning unit and stabilizing himself using the pipes. Silver shards of moonlight spilled down. The ghostly face was as black as ink, reflecting the light, like a mirror absorbing every glimmer of silver light, as if it were a black hole capturing all sources of illumination. Swish. Bone blades, growing forms. Yang Feng's fingertip bones extended into 5 sharp and slender bone blades, forged like fine steel, glinting with silver under the moonlight. They are coming. Several wandering corpses crossed over the corpses strewn across the alley, moving toward Yang Feng's direction, guided by sounds. Multidimensional information analysis. Holographic images captured, revealing information within a 100-meter radius, perfectly manifesting in Yang Feng's mind. Without hesitation, he suddenly quickened his pace, charging towards the approaching corpses. A sharp glint flashed by, and soon thereafter round objects plummeted to the ground. Filthy crimson liquid surged forth. Watermelon-sized spheres rolled across the ground, their cut edges smooth and even gleaming like mirrors, showcasing the sharpness of the bone blades. After all, this was a special organ that had undergone evolution once. Easy. With the bone blade, slaying monsters became exceedingly effortless and even more efficient. A single stroke could kill instantly, far quicker than using killing techniques to strike joints and weaknesses. 2 corpse tumors were collected. In the early days of the apocalypse, a large amount of spiritual essence had not been absorbed, but rather gathered within the corpse tumors, resulting in a much higher drop rate than later periods. First, let's clear out the monsters in the apartment complex. Yang Feng's gaze shifted to the inner courtyard. The wandering corpses that had mistakenly entered were scattered across the open spaces, incessantly searching, using their developed olfactory systems to capture the scent molecules in the air. Some corpses had indeed caught a whiff of something, detecting the scent of living humans swaying as they climbed towards the safe passage. Bang! Bang, bang, bang. Some corpses collided with obstacles, scratching at heavy bookshelves and wooden beds, leaving dense claw marks. The staircase of the passage was too obstructed. This route was blocked. A dozen corpses banged for a long time, but only shattered a piece of the outer bookshelf. Eventually, they reverted to their wandering state, swaying away from the safe passage. At most half a month, the apartment may fall. Corpses that fully absorb the spiritual essence will mutate, giving rise to a large number of aberrant corpses. Yang Feng observed in the shadows, speaking to himself. For now, the apartment seemed impenetrable, with the door tightly bound with heavy chains and the safe passage filled with various obstacles. No monster could breach the defenses. In a few days it would be different. Many monsters would meet the conditions for evolution, mutating into special monsters, effortlessly smashing the locks and tearing apart the obstacles in the safe passage. They would storm into the apartment akin to tigers entering a flock of sheep. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The chilling moonlight fell upon the sharp bone blades. The corpses in the inner courtyard were all hunted down one by one as a ghostly figure emerged from the darkness, striking with deadly claws. 3 corpse tumors collected. The interior of the apartment complex was deemed clean, simple, and effortless. This is merely a warm-up. Yang Feng weighed the 5 corpse tumors. The recent series of hunts were merely an appetizer for him. Time to expand outward. Yang Feng's cold gaze turned toward the area outside the complex. It was time to broaden the hunting range. Crouching low, he moved through the shadows, making not a sound. Outside the street, a dense mass of corpses formed a wave, wandering aimlessly like a multitude of fire. Thousands upon thousands of corpses surged forward as if they were part of a grand Halloween parade, moving aimlessly with the tide. Do not provoke the tide of corpses. Yang Feng hid in the shadows, avoiding drawing the attention of the horde, instead slipping into a shop along the corner. In the dark, lightless environment unsuitable for human eyes, everything was as bright as day for the ghostly face, with all colors hidden in the darkness appearing vibrant. A foul stench of decay pervaded the air. The ground was littered with overturned plates and shards, along with large amounts of sticky remnants of hot and spicy food, emitting a rancid odor. Bloodstains were everywhere. A long, bloody handprint marked the wall, and at the far end of the shop lay a human corpse nearly hollowed out. The corpses had attacked it, and its broken body lacked sufficient energy, so after death it did not transform into a new monster. Looking around, many corpses lay on the ground, their internal luminescent substances nearly absorbed, seemingly in a state of sleep. Have they eaten enough energy and are now preparing to sleep and evolve? Yang Feng's ghostly face furrowed slightly. The surrounding corpses had clearly killed many, and those that had gained sufficient energy could further enter a state of dormant evolution. Aberrant corpses. When corpses undergo complete evolution for the first time, they fully heal their wounds, and the extensive decay will fade away, growing into aberrant corpses. These aberrant corpses, while not yet achieving the strength of mutations, have surpassed normal humans in both power and speed. Once they progress further, they can metamorphose into mutations. This is quite a bargain for me. Yang Feng moved lightly, giving them no chance, swiftly killing them all while they remained in their dormant state. Over 10 sleeping corpses yielded 3 more corpse tumors. The sounds of corpses moaning could be heard from the direction of the kitchen. With a flick of his mind, Yang Feng's ghostly face captured multidimensional information, perceiving that there was actually a survivor in the kitchen. A single corpse. A woman. They were actually in the same room. The bone blade gently slid, slicing through the lock by the gap in the door. Yang Feng's figure flickered as he rushed into the kitchen, swiftly severing the head of that corpse, while simultaneously covering the woman's mouth, to prevent her from screaming. With a single stroke, the corpse that had emitted a whimper was instantly dispatched by Yang Feng. He immediately covered the mouth of the woman nearby, preventing her from screaming and attracting more monsters. The woman struggled, instinctively wanting to scream, but unable to produce any sound. Her eyes widened, first in shock, then in panic, followed by anger and sorrow. Xiaopeng! Xiaopeng! Tears streamed from the woman's eyes as she looked at the decapitated corpse, sobbing his name. Xiaopeng, the spicy hot pot chef. The corpse that had just been slain was the chef, and owner, a somewhat affable, chubby young entrepreneur. Yang Feng released the woman, who rushed to the corpse and wept over it. Upon closer inspection, Xiaopeng's neck, wrists, and thighs were all bound with ropes, fearing he might harm his girlfriend. Understanding the situation, Yang Feng quickly grasped what had happened. The distortion of spirits had a contaminating effect on ordinary people. The corpse monsters, upon biting or scratching a human, had a high probability of contaminating the victim. Once infected, unless one's will was particularly strong, they would slowly transform into a mindless monster. Your boyfriend has been infected. To protect you, he tied himself up, didn't he? Yang Feng crouched down, examining Xiaopeng's remains, and made a small incision at the back of his neck, lucky enough to retrieve a corpse tumor. The woman glared at Yang Feng, her eyes filled with rage. You deserve to die. You killed Xiaopeng, you killed... The woman watched in disbelief as her boyfriend died. Even though Xiaopeng had already turned into a corpse monster, it was still hard for her to accept her gaze, filled with furious madness. The woman drew a kitchen knife, trembling as she aimed it at Yang Feng, but still hesitated to strike. The apocalypse has erupted. The sense of oppression and fear can indeed drive one mad. Yang Feng's voice was chilling, but you know he has mutated. Doesn't that mean you no longer want to live? The woman became somewhat hysterical, her fiery anger morphing into madness. After taking one last look at Xiao Peng's body on the ground, she mustered her courage and charged with the knife. Clang! The clash of metal. The bone blade struck the kitchen knife, emitting a metallic sound followed by half of the knife's blade spinning back and embedding itself into the wall. The woman also slowly fell, dying in the embrace of Xiao Peng's remains. Yang Feng gave her a swift and sparing her from excessive pain as she instantly lost consciousness and life. A pair of ill-fated lovers. Originally thriving, full of happiness with both love and career flourishing, this young couple perished in the cruel twist of the apocalypse. Their actions may seem utterly insane to outsiders. Yet Yang Feng understood. It was this twisted apocalypse that was truly mad. There's very little that can be utilized. Gas cylinders can be fashioned into weapons. Yang Feng sighed for a moment before starting to search the back kitchen for any tools worth collecting. Cooking tools. A sharp kitchen knife. 2 spare gas cylinders. Yang Feng had the bone blade, so he didn't need weapons. The gas cylinders were great items that could be turned into homemade bombs. In the freezer there are still some cold fresh meats and Odin. Yang Feng finally opened the cold storage, finding various meat materials for hot pot. However, he was not short on supplies as he had a truckload of food looted from home. Let me take note. Yang Feng took out a small notebook and sketched a simple map. Outside the apartment building, the location of Xiao Peng's hot pot was marked, noting the 2 gas cylinders and several pieces of fresh meat for future collection. Let's continue hunting. Yang Feng had hunted nearly 10 corpse tumors tonight, but was still not satisfied. His remaining stamina was enough to continue hunting. The back kitchen had 2 doors. One led to the shop and the front street, while the other led to a narrow alley. The narrow alley connected to some old neighborhoods which were relatively worn down and dilapidated, featuring a few vegetable shops and butcher shops, as well as a couple of ordinary budget supermarkets. Without a large zombie tide, it was relatively safe and suitable as a new hunting ground. Something's off. He felt that something was wrong. Yang Feng opened the back door and distinctly sensed the unusual atmosphere. The ground of the dilapidated alley was riddled with many potholes from years of neglect. The butcher shop and vegetable shop were adjacent, resulting in a sign full of stains over time. Even so, the number of corpse monsters in the alley should not be so few. Only a scattered dozen monsters at most. Bang! Bang bang bang. From the nearby butcher shop came the heavy sound of chopping. Yang Feng's heart trembled as he hid in the shadows, edging closer to the shop. The air trembled as if turning into ripples, forming a clearer 3-dimensional image that revealed a massive... The butcher. It was a deformed monster. Standing over 2 meters tall, its body was muscular, and the veins under its skin were as grotesque as worms, with a back as robust as a small mountain. A faint bluish imprint covered its skin, resembling the marks left on iron after it has been forged and It wielded a large butcher's knife, forcefully chopping down on the blurred chunks of meat before it cleaving through tough bones and leaving deep cracks in the cutting board. What is it chopping? Those are not pigs or sheep being slaughtered, but blue sea pattern. Yang Feng immediately recognized that the bluish hue on the butcher was indeed proof of its blue sea pattern level. When the purity of the spirit material reaches a certain level, it will present this color, indicating its level is blue sea pattern. Deep steel giant corpse stage juvenile. Rare, grade blue sea pattern. A powerful aberration that has mutated after being parasitized by special organs with muscles as hard as steel, capable of easily withstanding small caliber bullets. An aberration. It is actually a blue pattern level aberration. The deep steel giant corpse is quite rare and causes great trouble for humanity whenever it appears. This monster, with a physique comparable to a tank, if it can continue to evolve to the level of indigo steel corpse, then it would truly be impervious to blades and bullets. Very good. My body is getting heated. Finally encountered a monster that can give me some pressure. Yang Feng slowly stood up from the shadows, his ghostly face revealing an excited and torn smile, his blood burning with a desire for battle. Battle. Bloodshed. Such a delightful experience. Yang Feng displayed a hint of madness in his smile, choosing not to stealthily ambush the other, but instead boldly walked into the butcher shop, ready to confront it head-on. Clang. The giant cleaver came crashing down. The butcher severed a piece of meat leg in half, splitting the entire cutting board into 2, tightening his grip on the knife as he sensed the approach of an enemy. Roar. The 2-meter-tall butcher let out a beastly roar from his throat. The butcher stepped towards Yang Feng, his massive feet thudding against the ground. The shoes he wore had completely disintegrated due to distortion, leaving behind only scraps of fabric. Raising the knife. Bringing it down. The giant cleaver whipped up a fierce wind, as if it were going to cleave Yang Feng in 2, descending with a heavy slash from above. So fast. The body of steel and muscle did not equate to clumsiness. With the terrifying power behind it, the speed of the falling cleaver was astonishing, leaving an ordinary person utterly unable to react. Good. The air reverberated. The blade shimmered. The edge of the giant cleaver was riddled with countless nicks, all caused by the hacking of bones. The oppressive atmosphere of battle focused the mind, enhancing the bota's perception of time significantly. Time felt compressed. Everything around seemed to slow down. Yang Feng's ghostly face, as dark as ink and as smooth as a mirror, revealed an expression of extreme excitement as he sensed the imminent danger of the blade. That's right, that's right, that's right. This feeling is so exhilarating. In the next second, I will be cleaved in two. In the next instant, the cleaver will sever me. Death is right before my eyes. Yang Feng's ghostly face had no eyes, yet he could feel the excitement in his gaze flashing, thoroughly savoring the feeling of being on the brink of death. Wait for another 0.01 seconds. Wait for another 0.01 seconds. Closer, closer, closer. At the moment the cleaver was about to strike down upon his ghostly face, the sense of time felt nearly overwhelming, and the feeling of impending death reached its peak. Yang Feng suddenly twisted his foot. At the last moment, he narrowly dodged the strike. A strand of hair floated down. Had he been just a moment later, his head would have been cleaved apart. Deliberate. He could have evaded the strike much earlier, yet he intentionally waited until the last moment to escape. A pervert. Distorted. A madman. All these words are insufficient to describe Yang Feng's recent maddened behavior. I almost died. Yang Feng hid to the side, gasping heavily, feeling the thrill of approaching death, his lips unknowingly stretching back to the roots of his ears. The butcher did not give him time to enjoy this. The giant cleaver swung horizontally, aiming to slice Yang Feng. Ding! Yang Feng's bone blade struck against the cleaver. The clash of metal produced sparks, and the immense force nearly caused Yang Feng's wrist to break. The disparity in strength was immense. Yang Feng's feet pounded against the ground as he quickly retreated, redirecting the recoil into the earth, yet even so he felt his arms tingle. A drop of blood flowed down. The bone blade was injured, causing his finger bones to twist, slightly crimson blood dripping from the torn gaps between his fingers, his forearms still in a state of numbness. Such enjoyment. This strike is quite good. Yang Feng's face twisted further, relishing the oppressive sensation of his opponent's relentless advance, his entire body involuntarily trembling, as if he feared the butcher before him. Instinct. This body instinctively trembled in fear. That kind of fear, however, could also ignite a powerful fighting spirit, compelling the body to tap into greater potential. Only by doing so could he survive. Tremble. Be afraid. Adrenaline is surging. The potential of my body is being unearthed by the fear of death. This feeling of being on the brink of death, dancing on the edge of a blade, is truly enjoyable. 10 years of apocalypse. No one could remain normal. Yang Feng, once a waste left behind by countless evolved beings, how could he carve a bloody path and surpass those extraordinary powerhouses? Madness. What he relied upon was the endless insanity of slaughter. It's my turn. Yang Feng felt his blood boiling, every cell in his body engulfed in a frenzied state. With a strange and agile step, the bone blade glimmered with a sharp, cold light, evading the butcher's attacks, while slicing underneath its raised armpit. Resilient. Muscles are resilient. The sensation from the slash felt as if cutting through steel, the tough muscle fibers entwined like twisted steel rods. This strike only left a shallow cut on the butcher. Roar. The butcher let out an angry roar, swinging the cleaver faster, while his other hand clenched into a fist, aiming to smash down on Yang Feng. Dodge. A holographic 3D image. Every tremor of the butcher's muscles, every shift in his steps, every angle of attack was vividly displayed in Yang Feng's mind. Ha! Come on, come on, come on. Yang Feng laughed wildly, like a butterfly dancing gracefully, continuously dodging between the cleaver and the giant fist, evading all the powerful strikes. Boom. The cleaver shattered the floor, cracks spreading like a spider's web. The deep blue iron fist smashed through the wall, revealing the concrete and steel structure. Just by observing the marks of hacking and crashing in the butcher shop, one could tell how powerful the deep iron giant's strength was. Every attack from the butcher was lethal. If anyone was watching, they would never believe that Yang Feng could defeat such a monster. However, Yang Feng was not merely dodging. With every sidestep, every evasion, and every maniacal laugh, he wielded the sharp bone blade, striking the butcher again and again. Hard. Muscles as tough as steel. If one slash only leaves a shallow cut, then what about 10, 100? Stab. A tearing sound echoed. One of the butcher's arms drooped down, unable to lift it again, the muscle fibers and ligaments completely severed by Yang Feng, rendering one of its arms useless. Thud. A similar tearing sound came. One of the butcher's legs knelt down, the large tendon at the heel, severed along with the ligaments behind the knee, completely cut off. Roar. The butcher let out a frenzied roar, one arm and one thigh still crawling on the ground, attempting to crush the tiny human before him. I'm bored of this. Without a threat, there's no fun. Yang Feng exhaled a long breath of stale air. The exhilarating battle had left him very satisfied, but now it had turned into a one-sided massacre. The victor had been decided. The deep iron giant, now devoid of threat, could no longer bring him joy. The next steps were simple. Yang Feng moved behind the butcher, and severed its brainstem with his bone claw. Filthy blood flowed. The spiritual essence shimmered with light, the deep blue markings fading, powerful energy, retreating in a certain direction, eventually coalescing into a deep blue corpse tumor. A rare-level corpse tumor of blue sea patterns, suitable for enhancing my body. The apartment. Yang Feng returned to his room. After the frenzied slaughter, his tense mind relaxed slightly, and a wave of soreness engulfed him, as if his bones were about to fall apart. Corpse tumor. A deep iron giant corpse, a rare blue, sea-patterned corpse tumor. Yang Feng held it in his palm, shimmering like a sapphire under the light, with the distorted spiritual essence inside glowing brightly. Organ. Muscle enhancement. This corpse tumor is a supreme item for enhancing muscles. Even in its juvenile form, the muscle fibers are enough to withstand small-caliber firearms, and as its form continues to evolve, it can nearly achieve perfect invulnerability to knives and guns. Puff. Yang Feng crushed the corpse tumor. The brilliant, deep blue spiritual essence covered his skin, penetrating into his muscles, bringing waves of warmth. Soon, the warmth transformed into excruciating pain. Every muscle in his body was engulfed in a strong, tearing sensation. It felt as if countless earthworms were wriggling beneath his skin, like thousands of ants gnawing at his flesh. Yang Feng's face was pale. Large beads of sweat covered his ashen face. Berserk. The power generated by the rare blue sea-patterned corpse tumor ran rampant within his body. It not only burrowed into his muscles, but also tightened around his bones, even attempting to wrap around his organs, completely invading this body. You brat, do you want to rebel too? Yang Feng's ghostly face twisted into a cruel grin, his expression contorted and frantic. Dark gold, like a demon king overlooking the world. An absolute terrifying dominance akin to the suppression of a born bloodline. Yang Feng's gaping mouth revealed a slimy tongue that licked his skin, conveying a threatening signal. I'll tear you apart. I will chew through all spiritual essence, completely devouring you. The azure spiritual essence, which radiated a brilliant blue hue, immediately gave up its invasion. It obediently listened to the ghostly face's scolding, only daring to integrate into the muscles of the entire body, reinforcing the territory that belonged to it. Powerful, muscular, resilient, like muscle fibers forged from steel. Deep iron fibers. Yang Feng acquired a third type of special organ. His entire body had undergone unique enhancements, with muscle fibers exhibiting a deep blue sheen hidden beneath his skin. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Yang Feng grabbed more than 10 ordinary corpse tumors, swallowing them all down with the ghostly face. The ghostly face, with a pitch-black mirror-like visage, shimmered with points of energy transforming from spiritual essence, most of which it converted and absorbed, while a small portion was returned to the body. Comprehensive enhancement. Although the degree of enhancement was small, it was stable, repairing old injuries on the body while making the other organs more obedient. National-level top-tier athlete. The last time Yang Feng consumed a corpse tumor, his overall physical quality had reached that of a provincial athlete, and this time the returning spiritual essence further transformed his body. Excluding the special organs, his overall physical quality had already reached that of a top national athlete, very close to the limits of human capability. Cardiopulmonary function, bone strength, reflex speed, metabolic rate. Various functions have been greatly improved. Yang Feng lay in bed, unable to help but fall into a deep sleep, his body burned through the last bit of stamina during the intense evolution. Afternoon. Yang Feng woke up after sleeping for more than 10 hours. His entire body was covered in a layer of black residue, a mix of sweat and impurities expelled from his body, forming large patches of black scabs. Splashing. The shower sprayed warm water, making his body feel extremely comfortable. Sweat and residue fell away as he looked at his current body through the bathroom window. Significantly stronger. Yang Feng's originally slender body appeared somewhat lean, but after the evolution of muscle fibers, his entire musculature had slightly bulged, displaying a sense of health. Not bad. Yang Feng nodded slightly, somewhat satisfied. The deep iron fibers were intimidated by his older brother's threat, avoiding excessive growth, otherwise turning into a huge mass of muscle would not be pleasant. It's not just an aesthetic issue. Overly bulging, rugged muscles can press against bones, tear skin, and negatively affect the body's resilience and coordination. This time is a tremendous improvement. The power has significantly increased, and the muscle fibers possess a certain degree of defense sufficient to face most unexpected situations. Yang Feng speculated about his combat power continuously evolving at the forefront of time, feeling a little invincible. Sizzle. The hot oil crackled as several steaks cooked simultaneously. Prepared with a self-heating hot pot, a dozen sausages were sliced while another pot simmered with rib soup. A massive increase in appetite. A single meal consumed the equivalent of several days' worth for others. Stamina must be replenished through food. After a hearty meal, his somewhat fatigued and weak body regained considerable strength, filled with vitality. Refreshing. Yang Feng burped contentedly. The thrill of battle, the exhilaration of slaughter, the joy of evolution, and the satisfaction of eating were all delightful. Knock knock. At that moment a knock sounded from outside the door. Yang Feng wiped his mouth and opened his door, revealing a very unfamiliar man standing outside, looking utterly bewildered. Fear. He was afraid of himself. I am a resident on the 7th floor. I knocked on your door this morning, but no one answered, so I waited until now. The man spoke somewhat awkwardly. After all, rumors had it that the man in Unit 405 was quite terrifying, ready to shed blood at the slightest provocation. Stop rambling. Yang Feng interrupted him impatiently, saying, Get to the point. What do you want from me? Mr. Mo Jianfeng asked me to convey that he wants to invite you to the rooftop. Since no one answered this morning, I thought you might be sleeping, so I didn't dare disturb you. The man was too nervous, repeatedly mentioning that he didn't dare disturb Yang Feng, showcasing his sincerity while fearing that the other party would harm him. Mo Jianfeng. Yang Feng muttered this name. The last time the property manager Bai Ting came to collect supplies, she had mentioned this person. He was the developer of nearby residential complexes, the chairman of a large group, having built many buildings and purchased numerous streets, running a very large business. Such an important figure is really within the apartment, inspecting work. Or is it true as rumored that he has some romantic entanglement, secretly meeting with Miss Bai Ting? In the apocalypse, the big boss of the group is trapped in the apartment. That's quite interesting. Yang Feng mocked a hint of sarcasm in his eyes as he joked. Do you think Mo Jianfeng left a love nest here, since manager Bai Ting lives nearby too? The man was taken aback. He did not expect the cold and ruthless Yang Feng to suddenly say such crude jokes. I don't know. He quickly shook his head. Even if he knew, he wouldn't say it. He was a master of feigning ignorance. Click, click. Yang Feng twisted his neck, twice the cold glint in his eyes flickering with a hint of disdain as he continued. All right, then you can relay the message to him. If he wants to ask me to do something, he should come down and say it himself. Dominance. The apocalypse has erupted. Do you still think you are the big boss? If you want me to do something, come down and say it yourself. Yang Feng's words were domineering, disregarding any semblance of hierarchy. Be it a big boss or a chairman, all must lower their stance. All right, I will go now. The man wiped the cold sweat from his temples and hurriedly fled, as if running for his life, not wanting to stay another second beside this harbinger of doom. Moi. Yang Feng shooed away this little fly and turned his gaze to another direction. A striking beauty appeared in an unexpected place. Su Man. She was surprisingly huddled in a corner like the other refugees, curling up her body, her eyes dim and devoid of light. What are you doing here? Yang Feng was a bit curious and took a couple of steps forward, bending down to ask Su Man. I was kicked out. Su Man shrank back in fear, stammering as she spoke, her eyes filled with grievance and anger. Room 407. That seemingly pitiful mother and son, along with a few other refugees, had taken residence in her house. It was evident. Su Man was the easiest to bully. In the end, she was dismissed and kicked out of her own house, becoming a homeless woman hiding in a corner with the other refugees. A great benefactor. Su Man provided clean towels, cooked food, offered hot water, donated supplies, and even allowed the pitiful refugees to stay in her house. And in the end, her kindness did not reap rewards, but left her with nothing, becoming a wandering refugee, despised by all, viewed as a troublemaker. 3 days. Merely the third day of the apocalypse. Fragile humanity had already twisted into the shape of fangs, and as time passed, the fangs of humanity's dark side would grow sharper. Keep it up. Yang Feng's lips curled slightly, seemingly laced with mockery, as he patted Su Man's shoulder. In these times, being a saint is not easy. Su Man clearly understood the mockery in his words, biting her lip, a trace of crimson liquid flowing out. Stubbornness. Her eyes sparkled with defiance and resilience, but in the end she could only hold back her tears and turn her head away, afraid to retort. Before long, there was a stir in the safe passage of the corridor. A man descended the stairs like a star surrounded by the moon, appearing before everyone. He wore a well-tailored designer suit, his slightly graying hair meticulously styled. Though he was around 50 years old, his frequent exercising made him appear remarkably youthful, his posture straight and upright. Mo Jianfeng. He was the chairman of the group, a wealthy businessman responsible for the development of several nearby. Right behind Mo Jianfeng stood the property manager Bai Ting, followed by several burly men, including the one whose arm Yang Feng had severed. What a grand spectacle. Yang Feng lowered his gaze, coldly mocking. Mo Jianfeng walked over slowly. Navigating through the business world, accustomed to high positions, gave him a confidence that set him above ordinary people, and this confidence was often perceived as the demeanor of a superior. The surrounding refugee survivors. Hello, I am Mo Jianfeng. Mo Jianfeng's expression was steady, his words carrying the weight of a leader as he extended his hand in greeting. Yang Feng glanced down, but made no effort to shake hands, sneering as he turned back into the room. Come in. Manager Bai Ting beside Mo Jianfeng glared with fury, deeply angered by such unreasonable behavior. especially since the one being insulted was her big boss whom she could only look up to and fawn over. Yang Feng turned back, his cold gaze swept over Bai Ting and the man behind her with the severed arm. Trouble comes from the mouth. Bai Ting then recalled the horror of facing Yang Feng yesterday. The image of him severing the security captain's arm was still fresh in her mind. Don't be afraid. I am here. The big boss is by our side. Moreover, this time, they were well prepared, not only bringing a few tough guys, but also. Bai Ting felt a sense of relief, her fear dissipating significantly, secretly waiting to see how the big boss would deal with this reckless youth. Yang Feng's room was in disarray. Numerous food wrappers lay strewn across the floor and greasy bowls and chopsticks were piled high on the table unwashed. Make yourself at home. Yang Feng lounged in a chair, gesturing for everyone to feel free, but there was no other chair in the room, leaving Imo Jianfeng awkwardly standing. The sycophants were everywhere. The man responsible for relaying messages quickly went outside to fetch a chair, respectfully placing it behind Imo Jianfeng. Imo Jianfeng was somewhat displeased. Sitting on the chair brought by his subordinate, he took out a box of cigarettes from his pocket, each one a luxurious custom-made item marked with a series of English letters. Ding! A crisp sound echoed. Bai Ting hurriedly stepped forward, using a diamond-encrusted high-end lighter to intimately light a cigarette for Imo Jianfeng. Hee. Yang Feng merely chuckled coldly. He picked up an apple, rubbed it, and took a big bite. Spit it out quickly. Are you here to show off, or what? This sentence nearly choked Imo Jianfeng. Bai Ting was about to erupt when Imo Jianfeng slightly raised his hand, signaling her to hold her tongue. Imo Jianfeng turned his head and took out a small notebook from his pocket, pulling out a pure gold custom pen to write something on it. I want to discuss a business deal with you. After finishing, Imo Jianfeng tore off the top page of the notebook and handed it to Yang Feng. A check. This was a check for 10 million. For an ordinary person, 10 million is an astronomical figure. Even a lifetime of hard work may not yield such an amount. This is an advance payment. Before the rescue arrives, if you can guarantee my safety, he'll give you another check, and you can fill in any amount. Imo Jianfeng was not here to seek revenge for his subordinate, but to buy Yang Feng with money. Yang Feng took the check and examined it carefully. 10 million, quite a lot. This is the first time I've seen a check, and the first time I've seen so much money. Yang Feng, still looking like a country bumpkin, held the check up to the sunlight for a better look. Imo Jianfeng smiled. No matter how powerful a person is, they are merely a brave fool. What does mere bravery amount to against the power of capital? What a pity. Money has no value anymore. This thing is even too stiff to be used as toilet paper. Yang Feng turned around, holding the ends of the check, gently pulling it apart until it tore in half, simultaneously shredding Imo Jianfeng's dignity. A slap in the face. This was a public humiliation. Money. Before the apocalypse, it was indeed a valuable asset. After the disaster struck, civilization and order were completely destroyed and money turned into mere scraps of paper, losing all purchasing power. Now, it has only been 3 days since the apocalypse began. Many people still harbor unrealistic fantasies about the future, believing that money can still be used as before. Civilization will surely be restored. Order will inevitably be reinstated. The money in people's hands will once again be usable in the future, allowing them to purchase anything as freely as before. This sense of luck is something everyone possesses to some extent, and Imo Jianfeng takes advantage of this mindset, constantly painting grand visions for others. I will give you 10 million, and in the future I will provide you with a house. I will give you the shops on that commercial street, and you can be your own boss from now on. The hottest bar will be yours later. Once rescue arrives, we will sign the paperwork. Imo Jianfeng continuously made promises which made the strong men willing to follow him and serve him. However, Yang Feng deeply understood that in the complete collapse of civilization, in order the currency from before had become entirely invalid. Perhaps, after some time, a new currency system will emerge, but it will no longer be the small pieces of paper in the hands of the bosses. It will be the corpses that can help people evolve and grow stronger. Look around. Open your eyes and see. The streets, alleys, supermarkets, and bank buildings are all filled. Yang Feng revealed a wicked smile. You don't really think that these small pieces of paper, harder than toilet paper, can buy anything from the undead monsters, do you? Yang Feng tore up the check. He publicly slapped Imo Jianfeng in the face, and not only that, he shattered the grand visions Imo Jianfeng had painted. The atmosphere grew tense. If everyone believed that the money in Imo Jianfeng's hands had turned to waste paper, who would still be willing to serve him? Imo Jianfeng's core interests were touched, and he exploded in anger. He slammed his palm heavily on the table, his demeanor no longer refined, revealing his fangs as he threatened. There are more than 30 men in this entire building willing to serve me. All the supplies are collected in my hands. I know you are strong, but how many can you take on alone? When seduction failed, Imo Jianfeng began to threaten with force, darkly stating, "It's not too late to join us now." He was indeed a boss, a natural leader. Bai Ting and the surrounding muscular security guards looked at him with admiration. Most people truly couldn't withstand the barrage of threats and seductions and ultimately had to submit to him. You? Are you threatening me? Yang Feng's reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. He withdrew his playful demeanor, his face becoming cold, his eyes glinting with killing intent, like a cold blade ready to cut. For some reason, Mo Jianfeng's once confident heart now felt a hint of fear. It was a fear of death. It was a fear of the unknown. No matter how rich, powerful, or confident a person may be, walking in the desolate wilderness, facing a bloodthirsty wolf, they would still feel deep fear. Yang Feng was that bloodthirsty wolf. Mo Jianfeng was frightened. He quickly took out a square phone from his bag, revealing his trump card. This is a satellite phone. Before the apocalypse, I had already contacted a team of professionals. They care little for life when money is involved, and I have already paid a deposit. Even if support doesn't arrive, that group will still come. Mo Jianfeng's trump card was indeed surprising. A satellite phone. In a situation where communication was almost completely paralyzed, this special satellite phone could still maintain a signal. Moreover, Mo Jianfeng had hired a group of professionals, probably some mercenaries operating in the gray areas of the law. Such people are rare in Huagua. Mo Jianfeng truly lived up to being the chairman of a conglomerate, finding such unconventional ways to protect himself. His subtext was simple: if you dare to touch me, mercenaries will come to kill you. I can confirm it. You are indeed a threat to me. The more Yang Feng listened, the colder his eyes became, genuinely harboring a killing intent. He cannot be left alive. Mo Jianfeng must not be allowed to live. His leadership skills are remarkable, having quickly subdued a large number of subordinates, and his connections are extensive, being able to contact some ragtag mercenaries. This person has great potential to become a tyrant. Yang Feng slowly stood up. The longer the night, the more dreams. He had already decided to directly eliminate Mo Jianfeng. Although it was their first meeting, it should also be their last. Wait, what are you doing? Mo Jianfeng instinctively sensed danger, feeling the chill of being targeted by a wolf. Killing intent. Mo Jianfeng felt the most genuine killing intent, instinctively pulling away from the chair and retreating. Are you crazy? We just met for the first time. Mo Jianfeng was utterly perplexed. The business deal had been going well, and he was still using his threats and seductions. Why did the other party suddenly want to strike? Of course, Mo Jianfeng's tactics were indeed very effective in the civilized world where everyone lived in a beautiful future and had to think about their future prospects. But Yang Feng was different. He had survived in the dark apocalypse for 10 years. The future was only darkness, and all that could be fought for was today. When confronted with a real threat, it is best to eliminate it immediately. Not tomorrow, not in the future, but now. The enemy must be killed now. There can be no wait. Don't move. I told you not to move, do you hear me? One of the muscular men closest to Mo Jianfeng, holding an iron rod, protected the boss and swung it high toward Yang Feng. Bang! With a loud crash, the iron rod came crashing down, but did not hit Yang Feng. He reached out and grabbed it. Yang Feng simply raised his hand and firmly caught the iron rod. The terrifying power made his palm feel like a steel claw, leaving deep finger imprints on the iron rod. This was the result of his evolved organs. Yang Feng exerted a bit of force and wrenched the iron rod away, holding both ends and slightly bulging his muscles as he twisted it into a shape. The iron rod continued to deform. It didn't resemble steel metal. Instead, it looked like a twisted noodle being twisted into a flower shape and finally casually squished into an iron disc. Clang! The iron disc fell to the ground, shocking everyone's hearts. Is this still a human? Is this strength truly achievable by humans? Monster! Yang Feng was a monster clad in human skin. Protect me, protect me. Mo Jianfeng's face turned pale, clearly frightened by the terrifying sight before him. Having dominated the business world for many years, Mo Jianfeng had seen all kinds of storms, but he had never encountered a monster like Yang Feng. Clang! Clang! The surrounding bodyguards each dropped their weapons and scrambled to flee. What a joke! Money is important, but life is only one. The iron rod had been turned into an iron disc. If they rushed in, wouldn't their heads be crushed? The first to run away was the muscular man who had lost an arm. He had already experienced Yang Feng's terror once and had no desire to face it a second time. Even Bai Ting, the most loyal mistress, was hiding in the corner, covering her mouth, flustered. Don't push me. Mo Jianfeng roared furiously, his eyes filled with menace as he revealed his second trump card. A gun. He suddenly drew a handgun and aimed it at Yang Feng. A gun. In Hua country, firearms are prohibited. Mo Jianfeng truly lives up to his status as the chairman of the group, managing to acquire such a thing. He really has connections that reach the heavens. Don't come any closer. Mo Jianfeng trembled as he grasped the gun. However, having the weapon gave him a bit more courage, and with a determined heart, a hint of ruthlessness appeared on his face. I don't want to kill anyone. Don't force me to pull the trigger. Mo Jianfeng's face twisted in a grimace. His previously calm gaze now trembled like a quake, yet he lacked the courage to pull the trigger. So that's it. You don't dare to pull the trigger. Yang Feng stopped in his tracks, showing no sign of fear in front of the gun, instead revealing an even more excited smile. Mockery. It was as if he were toying with prey, his eyes filled with derision. You go to such lengths to get a pistol, yet you are afraid to kill. You don't even have this little bit of courage. It turns out you are just a coward, lucky to have succeeded a bit, but deep down you are still a failure. Yang Feng appeared to be a madman, but in truth he had seen through everything, able to discern a person's essence. Courage. This is an essential quality for a successful person. Mo Jianfeng seemed quite successful, running a large business with everyone bowing and scraping to curry favor. In reality, he was merely lucky, never encountering any major failures or setbacks, just a coward who kept succeeding. Once he faced a real crisis, he would hesitate and falter, falling into despair, just like now. A fortunate failure by chance. Pull the trigger. Yang Feng waved his finger, his excited and fierce expression making Mo Jianfeng nearly drop the pistol in fright. What? Yang Feng actually urged the other party to shoot. A madman. Absolutely a madman. Mo Jianfeng shivered and nearly threw away the gun in his hand. Shoot. Let me see your courage. Let's make things a bit more interesting. Will I be shot dead by you, or will I turn you into a mess? At that moment, Yang Feng truly enjoyed it, like a crazed gambler savoring the thrill. Interesting. To gamble with one's life, and he finds it interesting. He felt extremely insignificant. Power, money, loyal subordinates. Nothing could save him. In this life and death game, he felt extremely insignificant. Power, money, loyal subordinates. Nothing could save him. In this life and death game, he felt like an ant controlled by the man before him. Don't force me, don't force me, don't force me. Mo Jianfeng trembled. Even though he was the one with the advantage of the gun, he kept retreating until his back hit the wall. There was no escape. No retreat. Coward. Weakling. Failure. Do you still not dare to pull the trigger? Yang Feng was being pointed at by the gun, yet he was the true master of the situation, advancing toward Mo Jianfeng with a fierce and excited smile. Then I am coming over to crush your head like a watermelon. A dead end. Mo Jianfeng had reached the point where he fearfully closed his eyes, pointing the gun at Yang Feng and randomly pulling the trigger. Bang. Bang! Gunshots rang out, sparks flying and brass bullet casings fell to the ground, emitting the scent of gunpowder until the magazine was empty. Only then did Mo Jianfeng dare to open his eyes, but what he saw next drove him to the brink of despair. He didn't fall. Yang Feng was hit by a dozen bullets and still didn't fall. He stretched out his arms, completely shielding his face as the bullets pierced his skin, leaving small holes that oozed crimson liquid. That was all. Beneath his skin was deep iron muscle radiating a deep blue hue, the powerful fibers actually blocking the bullets. Deep iron fiber. This is a special muscular organ capable of withstanding small caliber bullets. How can this be? Like this. Mo Jianfeng was utterly shocked, his pupils constricted, unable to believe the scene before him. Clink, clink, clink. The bullets that could not penetrate the muscle fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Shattered. The sound of these bullets falling to the ground completely shattered Mo Jianfeng's psychological defense. His confidence was shattered at that moment. His dignity was shattered at that moment. Fear gripped his heart like a suffocating hand, causing this failed successful man to abandon his high position and kneel down immediately. Spare me. Please spare me. I am willing to give you all my money, all my resources. He cried. Mo Jianfeng actually cried. Tears of fear and despair mixed with a lot of snot covered his twisted face, completely losing the initial arrogance of a tyrant. He kneeled and begged for mercy. Mo Jianfeng wanted to grasp at any straw for salvation, turning to glance at his mistress, and immediately added, "Woman, I'll give you Bai Ting too." Upon hearing this, Bai Ting turned pale. Is this still the chairman she admired? Is this still the confident and proud figure manipulating the business world? What a satisfaction. Every time I see you so-called masters kneeling and begging for mercy, tears streaming down your face, it brings me immense satisfaction. Yang Feng's eyes glimmered with deeper mockery. The thrill of completely shattering a superior's psychological defenses was simply exhilarating. But you know, I still prefer your previous defiant demeanor. Yang Feng walked up to Mo Jianfeng, grasped his neck with one hand, and slowly lifted him up. He was bored. It became uninteresting. With a slight exertion, a sound like breaking porcelain rang out, and the once powerful tycoon died with a tilt of his neck. He was casually tossed to the ground like trash, his face still reflecting the pleading expression of tears and snot. Too crazy. All those present looked at Yang Feng with deep fear in their eyes. What was most frightening was not his incredible power, but his absolute frenzied madness. No one could guess what he intended to do, and no one knew how insane his next move would be, yet this madness was not. Everything was under his control. Those cold, sharp eyes pierced through the weakest point of the heart, already seeing. Bang, bang, bang. Bai Ting trembled all over without a shred of hesitation, immediately kneeling and bowing her head. Don't kill me, please don't kill me. I'm willing to do anything. Woo. She was truly scared, tears streaming down her face, uncontrollably dripping onto the floor to form B. The few bodyguards who had dropped their weapons and hadn't managed to escape also knelt down, trembling all over, fearing that they would be the next to die. Yet Yang Feng merely smiled slightly. Don't be afraid. I'm not a pervert who takes pleasure in killing. Whoa, please spare me. I have always been following Mo Jianfeng's orders. Collecting supplies was also his idea. If you're unhappy, please return the food to the people. Bai Ting pleaded on the ground, crying and blaming all the sins on the already deceased Mo Jianfeng. From a high vantage point, Yang Feng stood up, looking down at Bai Ting, who was repeatedly bowing at his feet. This woman was around 30 years old, exuding the charm of a mature woman with an underlying seductive allure that always made men feel restless. At the same time, this woman was also a venomous shrew. She was extremely sycophantic towards her superiors, yet treated those beneath her like trash and insects, exploiting them by every means possible. Such a woman deserves to die. Yet such a woman is also useful. Did I tell you to return the supplies? Yang Feng's voice instantly stunned Bai Ting. She hesitated and raised her head, calculating in her mind. You mean? Bai Ting's eyes lit up as she immediately grasped Yang Feng's meaning. I understand these supplies are yours. The entire apartment building. Almost all the residents had received the news in advance and hoarded a large amount of food and supplies. After Bai Ting collected them, they nearly filled several rooms. If allocated reasonably, it would be enough to sustain the apartment for a long time. If everyone endured some hardship together, it would be completely fine to last for several months. Boss Yang Feng, from now on I will listen to you. Whatever you want me to do, I will do it. Bai Ting climbed up the ladder of power, inching forward on her knees and crawling under Yang Feng's foot, almost wanting to kiss his shoe. Yang Feng's gaze was sharp. His original plan was, the neighbors hoard grain, I hoard the neighbors. This somewhat cumbersome step was completed by Bai Ting and Mo Jianfeng's group, saving him from having to do it himself and allowing him more time for hunting. Management is a troublesome matter. I have no interest in dealing with the trivialities in the apartment, so let you. Yang Feng's tone was cold while Bai Ting was overjoyed upon hearing this. She repeatedly bowed to Yang Feng, her crawling body rubbing against his pants leg like a dog. Thank you, boss Yang Feng. You all, why aren't you thanking the boss together? Bai Ting regained power, and the first thing she did was to act tough, summoning all the bodyguards to pledge loyalty to Yang Feng. Thank you, boss Yang Feng. Thank you, boss Yang Feng. The surrounding bodyguards also revealed flattering smiles. They quickly transformed from Mo Jianfeng's bodyguards to Yang Feng's servants, at least ensuring they wouldn't die. It was lamentable. It was a sigh of relief. In the apocalypse, the strong are respected, and the victors become kings. If you possess absolute power, your enemy one moment can willingly become your dog the next. Yang Feng nodded. This way he saved himself a lot of trouble. What is the current distribution of food? Yang Feng sat back in his chair, beginning to calculate the next plan. The supplies from the homeowners have just been submitted. To avoid stirring public anger, everyone can receive 2 to 3 bags of instant noodles along with a sausage or a marinated egg. Bai Ting quickly responded. This quantity of supplies could barely satisfy those with small appetites, but in the resource-scarce apocalypse, it could be considered half a charitable act. Do we need to increase the supply? Bai Ting hesitantly raised her head, stealing glances at the contemplating Yang Feng, trying to gauge his thoughts. Too much. Yang Feng's gaze was cold, but the smile at the corner of his mouth was exceptionally cruel. Demon. Bai Ting clenched her fists, wondering if Yang Feng was preparing to further cut supplies. We can cut down 1 sausage. Residents can receive 2 bags of instant noodles daily, or 1 bag combined with other foods of equal quantity. Bai Ting said, somewhat nervously, stealing another glance at Yang Feng, as if he was still not satisfied. Still too much. Yang Feng's smile appeared even more brutal to everyone. Bai Ting trembled all over. Yang Feng's approach was simply more ruthless than the most exploitative capitalist, completely recklessly killing the chicken to get the eggs. Only 1 bag of instant noodles for residents daily. They can't survive on this little food. Bai Ting raised her head, almost certain that the residents of the apartment would definitely rise up against her. Just before they had just submitted the hoarded large supplies. Now only 1 bag of instant noodles daily, not even enough for dogs. Is 1 bag of instant noodles still considered too little? Yang Feng sneered, recalling some painful memories. In the most brutal concentration camps, food supplies were completely cut off and corpses littered the ground. Let alone 1 bag of instant noodles, even roots covered in dirt were considered good things. And in the end, they had to set up a large pot to recycle the already starved dead. Let alone 1 bag of instant noodles, even roots covered in dirt were considered good things. And in the end, they had to set up a large pot to recycle the already starved. This is a gun. I'm giving it to you now. You know how to use it, right? Yang Feng placed the gun in Bai Ting's hand, with his other hand his smile, becoming even more sinister, almost more chilling than a demon from hell. Demon. He is a true demon. I will do as you say. Bai Ting held the gun, her eyes filled with despair. After announcing this message, she would stand opposed to all the residents. Of course, those subordinates who obey you will receive more food. You can gather more people as instructed by Mo Jianfeng and firmly control the entire apartment. With the stick and the carrot. Yang Feng understood this principle well. After the stick, he needed to give a little sweetness. Upon hearing this, Bai Ting's beautiful eyes instantly brightened. With this sentence, she and her subordinate bodyguards could eat well. In the end, Yang Feng grabbed Bai Ting's cheek and turned her face toward Mo Jianfeng's direction, the cold corpse, serving as a warning. Remember one thing. My words must be obeyed absolutely. Yang Feng did not say the word otherwise because the consequence of disobedience was already in front of her. Not obeying meant only one path: death. I understand. I am your dog, the most obedient dog. Bai Ting nodded like a chick pecking at rice, and then truly acted like a dog wagging her tail and pleading with Yang Feng. Soon Bai Ting and several bodyguards dragged Mo Jianfeng's corpse out of the room. Not long after they left, an enraging news spread throughout the building. From today onwards, the distribution of food would decrease to 1 bag of instant noodles. Outrage. The residents were furious, itching to grab a kitchen knife and demand an explanation from Bai Ting. Half an hour later, the entire apartment was in an uproar, with homeowners from every unit gathering together, heading toward the floor where Bai Ting was located. Anger surged like a tide. Outrage filled the air. Every household received the news. Residents could only get 1 bag of instant noodles each day. Why should I? I donated 2 bags of rice, 3 bags of flour, and 5 boxes of instant noodles. And now I only get 1 bag a day. What the hell do they really think? I can be bullied? The residents who had remained silent and passive finally erupted. Some rushed out of their rooms wielding kitchen knives, their eyes blazing with rage. Others, entire families united, grabbed pots and pans as weapons and joined the wave of rebellion. The more people there were, the bolder they became. The more people there were, the easier it was for troublemakers to take advantage. The 3rd floor was in uproar, the 4th floor was in uproar, the 5th floor was in uproar, the 6th floor was in uproar. The emergency exit was crowded with various people rushing upstairs to confront Bai Ting. The more people there are, the more courage they find. Although they usually hide at home, like turtles, they know how to fight back when pressed hard enough. Yang Feng leaned against the door frame, watching the chaos in the corridor with an expectant smile. I wonder if Bai Ting and the others can hold up. 19th floor. The place where supplies were hoarded. Food and resources filled several rooms resembling. Over 30 muscular men stood guard near the safe staircase, nervously confronting the residents with clubs and blades in hand. Everyone, please don't panic. Let me explain slowly. We have special reasons for reducing the distribution of. Bai Ting shouted into a small megaphone at the people in the corridor, trying to maintain order, but the tense atmosphere had already made her forehead glisten with sweat. To hell with your reasons. I just want my supplies and food back now. I'm not donating anymore, just give me back. Many rushed out of the corridor wielding various weapons, and amidst the pushing and shoving they occupied half of the passage. There were just too many people. Although Bai Ting had about 30 underlings, the total number of residents was in the hundreds. 2 fists could not fight against 4 hands. Despite the bodyguards being strong, they couldn't possibly take on 10 at once. Ting Jia, we can barely hold on. There are too many people, what should we do? The burly bodyguard whispered from behind, their hearts filled with fear, dreading that the residents would rush them all at once, leaving them to face blades. The rescue news hasn't come yet. We must conserve every grain of food and distribute it based on need. Bai Ting shouted loudly into the megaphone, but there was no persuasive power in her words. To hell with her. This BTCH just wants to hoard our supplies. Brothers, let's charge. We have the numbers. In the emergency exit, a rallying cry rang out, echoing back as more people began to surge forward. There was no other choice. Bai Ting was starting to feel overwhelmed. She pulled a gun from her bag and aimed it at the crowd. She has a gun. A stir arose in the crowd, especially among the frontline refugees who began to shrink back, fearing that the first shot would hit them. Don't retreat. She only has 1 gun. Oh, can we not overpower her with so many of us? Damn, then you stand in front. Stop, just talking. In the chaotic crowd, a comical scene unfolded. The people at the front retreated to avoid the gun, while those behind pushed forward, believing that the first to die would be those in front. As people retreated and advanced, many stumbled and dropped their weapons, producing a sharp clatter. The initial momentum weakened by half. Bai Ting's group felt a sudden reduction in pressure, exchanging glances and preparing to intimidate again. The safety was off and the magazine was loaded. Although Bai Ting had never used a gun, she had seen a few action movies and knew how to pull the trigger. Bang! Bai Ting raised her hand and fired a shot into the ceiling. The gunshot echoed loudly in the corridor, causing chunks of debris to fall from the ceiling, startling everyone into instinctively retreating. A real gun. Loaded and ready, no faking. He'll say it again. Food will definitely be distributed based on need. Please do not cause trouble. Otherwise the bullets don't have eyes. Bai Ting aimed the gun at the refugees. Those targeted wisely dropped their weapons and desperately fell back. However, while the two groups argued endlessly, a greater crisis was quietly looming. Outside the apartment, the noise attracted a horde of monsters. Although the corpses could not enter for now, certain aberrations lurking in the darkness had already taken notice of the apartment. The megaphone, the commotion, and the final gunshot. Everything indicated that there was plenty of food in the apartment. In the dark corners, several massive creatures stirred their grotesquely mutated bodies, crawling toward the apartment walls. Crawling beast stage growth. Rare grade green jade. They are mutated from a large canine species with immense muscle strength that even tears through their own skin. Most notably, the crawling beast excels at climbing and can move swiftly along the exterior walls of buildings in search of hidden prey. A beast nearly 2 meters in size followed the noise, using its sharp, massive claws to pierce the apartment's outer wall while climbing up. 1 head, 2 heads, 3 heads. There were 5 monsters surrounding the side of the apartment building, occasionally passing by the windows, casting dark shadows. Yang Feng sat waiting for the show, but suddenly sensed an unusual feeling of threat. He keenly picked up the rustling sound coming from outside the wall, rapidly spreading upward. Aberrations. Creatures that could crawl on walls, and there was more than one. Meanwhile, the standoff between Bai Ting and the refugees had reached a boiling point. Both groups were unwilling to yield, but no one dared to strike, first becoming the inevitable scapegoat. Bang! Crash! Suddenly a loud crash echoed as the glass window outside the emergency exit shattered. A massive shadow loomed, and a thick arm with hooks pierced through someone's body. Oh! He screamed in confusion, only to be violently pulled outside, followed by the brutal sounds of chewing, with crimson liquid raining down. What is that? What happened? The people in the emergency exit panicked, but this was just the beginning. The aberrations tasted blood and launched their attacks. Several windows on different floors shattered, and more horrific screams erupted. Monster! The monsters are coming in. Monster. Abnormal species. The crawling beast measures over 2 meters in length, its massive body shattering the glass window, leaving exaggerated cracks on the wall. Crack, crack, crack. Large chunks of wall mud and ash peeled away, revealing the steel-reinforced concrete structure, and the giant beast finally squeezed its way inside. A tiger entering a flock of sheep. This is a true tiger among sheep. Its sharp front claws are over 50 centimeters long, resembling 3 steel blades embedded in its paws, swinging towards the crowd without any hesitation. Crimson liquid sprayed everywhere. Large strips, chunks, and round balls were severed in the passage. Colorful and grotesque. The nauseating smell of blood assaulted the senses. Slippery and moist organic matter flowed down the steps alongside the colorful long ropes. Many people stepped on it and fell over. Oh! Monster, monster! Help! 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 A hellish scene unfolded as the crawling beast continued to chase other humans, opening its enormous jaws to devour, the horrifying sound of chewing echoing relentlessly. Fleeing. The refugees were like ants on a hot pan. They fled in panic, shoving each other in the crowded passageway, helplessly watching one after another of their kind torn to pieces. Some were so scared by this hellish sight that they stood frozen in place, collapsing to the ground, trembling all over, unable to control their bodies. A few wise individuals hurriedly fled towards the corridor outside the passage, running into different floors, retreating to their rooms, attempting to use the doors to block the monster's onslaught. Roar, 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 roar. The crawling beast let out a frenzied roar, and within just a few minutes the entire corridor was stained blood red. A figure appeared. While others fled, he swam against the current, seemingly unafraid of the monsters in the passage, walking step by step towards them. Yang Feng. A twisted and sinister smile spread across his face, mixed with a hint of excitement as he subconsciously licked his lips. Ghost face. The pitch-black, mirror-smooth ghost face covered Yang Feng's cheek, projecting holographic images into his mind, all information transforming into a multidimensional state. Very good. 5 abnormal species, saving me the trouble of hunting tonight. In Yang Feng's eyes, those crawling beasts were instead the targets of his hunt, arriving just in time. A massive crawling beast sensed Yang Feng's approach, slowly turning its head, crouching down, and assuming an aggressive posture. It could clearly feel that the enemy before it was different from the previous two-legged sheep. Roar, 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 roar. With a thunderous roar, the crawling beast lunged forward, its 3 steel-sharp claws suspended in the air, generating a fierce wind ready to slice Yang Feng into 4 pieces. Swish. A cold light flashed. The sound of metal clashing followed. After a burst of sparks, a giant claw spun into the sky, crashing down with an incredibly dull thud. Filthy, viscous liquid sprayed everywhere. One of the crawling beast's forelimbs was completely severed. Bone blade, growth form. Yang Feng's fingertips boasted several slender and sharp bone blades, which had indeed severed the crawling beast's forelimb. You have claws. I have bone blades. The crawling beast screeched in agony, its tone completely different from before, and Yang Feng, who was familiar with the various details of the apocalypse, understood it was calling for help. Calling for help, indeed. Abnormal species are not like ordinary monsters devoid of any consciousness or thought. The abnormal species having undergone special mutations possess a rudimentary level of intelligence and can even collaborate like beasts during hunts. Wolf pack. Yang Feng recalled the information about the crawling beasts. Has the canine gene manifested? Crawling beasts are social abnormal species, and they possess canine biological genes. They naturally trace back to ancient memories mastering the hunting methods of wolf packs, everything imprinted in their DNA sequences. Crack, crack, crack. The wall emitted cracking sounds as another crawling beast hung from the ceiling, rapidly climbing down like a large gecko to support its kin. Not only that, from higher levels of the safety passage, the sound of crawling beasts running quickly could be faintly heard, with a third crawling beast hastening towards this location at top speed. Surround and hunt. Yang Feng's smile grew more excited. The more challenging the battle, the more it stimulated. First, I'll deal with you. Yang Feng rushed forward, seizing the opportunity to take down the injured crawling beast first. However, the crawling beast hanging from the ceiling aimed to protect its injured companion, immediately lunging towards Yang Feng. They're quite cooperative. Then I'll kill you first. Yang Feng watched as the massive shadow slowly descended his feet, made a sudden strange turn, retracting the bone blades in his hands, preparing to receive its attack with bare hands. Deep iron fibers. All muscles tensed, each fiber solidified like steel bars, unleashing an unparalleled terrifying force, producing rhythmic creaking sounds. Over-thresholder throw. Yang Feng adjusted his angle, channeling all his strength into a twisting motion, his palms clamping down on the crawling beast's forelimbs tightly. Twisting his waist, rotating his hips, shoulder tilted, he hurled forward with great force. Boom, 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 boom. That enormous crawling beast, over 2 meters long, was thrown violently to the ground by Yang Feng. The corners of the staircase instantly shattered and exploded, half of the steps covered in dense cracks, even revealing the internal concrete structure. This strike showcases how powerful Yang Feng is. This strike showcases how exquisite Yang Feng's combat skills are. Faintly, the sound of shattered ceramic pieces could be heard, and as the staircase corners broke, the crawling beast evidently suffered several. Faintly, the sound of shattered ceramic pieces could be heard, and as the staircase corners broke, the crawling beast evidently suffered several broken bones. Die. Finishing off is a good habit. Yang Feng laughed maniacally, his fist crashing down on the incapacitated crawling beast, striking its temple. The bone blades pierced out. 5 slender and sharp bone blades stabbed in from one side of the temple, emerging from the other side of its massive head, taking its life in an instant. Here they come again. Multidimensional information analysis enveloped the other crawling beast. The crawling beast that had lost a forelimb ruthlessly launched an attack while its companion was dying. As it swung its claws, it opened its massive jaws to bite at Yang Feng, its sharp teeth densely packed, closed. Gap. This was Yang Feng's gap. Now drawing out the bone blades for a counterattack would be somewhat late. I don't just have bone blades. Yang Feng did not withdraw his hands. Instead, he suddenly leapt into the air, violently kicking backward. Rabbit kicks eagle. The power of a human thigh is about 3 times stronger than that of an arm. If effectively trained and utilized, legs are more threatening weapons than fists. Bang. A heavy sound. Yang Feng's heel accurately kicked the crawling beast's jaw, the violent force causing its open massive jaws to snap shut, shattering a multitude of teeth. Crack. The rabbit kicks the eagle. With a fierce kick, the power from the heel struck like 2 massive hammers, smashing hard against the jaw of the crawling beast. The shattered sharp teeth flew and scattered, followed by the sound of ceramic shards breaking as the entire jaw twisted and exploded. The terrifying power kicked the crawling beast away, slamming it against the wall behind, shaking the entire passage as large clouds of dust fell. You die too. Immediately, he delivered a finishing blow. Yang Feng moved swiftly, taking advantage of the crawling beast's moment of confusion to deliver an uppercut to its broken jaw, followed by the emergence of a bone blade. Phew! The bone blade pierced through the jaw and into the crown of its head. The second crawling beast was also swiftly dispatched by Yang Feng, cleanly and without hesitation. Reinforcements are quick. Yang Feng looked up again towards the end of the stairs, where the third crawling beast had already arrived, followed by the fourth and fifth. A total of 5 crawling beasts. Especially the last crawling beast, which appeared even larger. Its muscles strained against its skin, intertwining and emitting a dim green glow. Even its claws had turned emerald green. Interesting. Though still in the growth period, it has reached the brink of transformation. Yang Feng's heart raced. The pressure brought by this crawling beast was entirely different from the others. It was just a step away from evolving into a mature form. Once an aberration transforms into a mature body, its strength will increase significantly, breaking free from limitations to become a higher existence. Are you their leader? Yang Feng stood tall, aware that the crawling beast couldn't understand his words, yet he still spoke to the unique crawling beast. No need for words. Strong individuals can often deduce what others want to express merely through their demeanor and tone. Aru, the unique crawling beast, took Yangfeng's words as a provocation, as a declaration of war. Although the words did not convey this meaning, it could sense that the human before it wanted to fight. Command. The third crawling beast seemed to hear its leader's order and let out a roar as it charged at Yangfeng. "He'll smash you!" Yangfeng shouted fiercely, his feet moving in an erratic pattern as bone blades shot from his fingertips at a cunning angle, slicing towards the side of the crawling beast. Clang. The clash of metal. Yangfeng's bone blades collided repeatedly with the crawling beast, but after just a few exchanges the sound of tearing emerged. Phew. Phew phew phew. Yangfeng moved with peculiar steps, shifting slightly each movement, allowing him to dodge the enemy's attacks, while extending his bone blades to cut. After several shifts, Yangfeng circled around the crawling beast, nearly completing a full rotation, and when he stopped, the monster was momentarily stunned. With a rush, the blood and flesh were shredded, and exploded. Large patches of colorful, slippery, soft, organic matter flowed down the cut. Just as Yangfeng had said, "He'll smash you." He had already gutted this crawling beast. Brutal. Yangfeng's movements were incredibly ruthless, yet flowed like water. He resembled the legendary butcher from ancient tales, severing the beef and bones in one swift motion. This is the art of killing. If you learn from a martial arts master practicing hard through the harsh winters and scorching summers for 10 years, chopping at wooden dummies every day, you would never achieve this level. However, Yangfeng had taught himself. He struggled daily on the tightrope between life and death, honing his combat skills through countless battles, ultimately turning into a brutal killing machine. The unique aberration seemed to possess a higher intelligence, suppressing its urges to kill and hunt, quietly observing the battle process from the side. Next, it's your turn. Yangfeng turned to face the unique crawling beast that had yet to come to its aid. It was observing. The unique aberration seemed to possess a higher intelligence, suppressing its urges to kill and hunt, quietly observing the battle process from the side. Aru, the unique crawling beast, howled like a wild wolf, then proceeded to do something that no one expected. Run. It unexpectedly turned and fled. This leader of the crawling beasts assessed the situation based on the deaths of its three kin and concluded that the human before it was an extremely dangerous existence, not to be trifled with. Boom. The sound of crashing. The unique crawling beast smashed through the glass frame in the passage. Its massive body crushed large sections of the wall, then swiftly crawled away like a giant gecko. The other crawling beast followed suit, escaping through the window behind its leader, gradually disappearing into the vast night. This is true intelligence. If you can't win, run, using the death of a companion to gauge the strength of the enemy. Truly worthy of a leader about to transform into a mature form. This is simply a cowardly wolf. Coward. Yangfeng removed his ghostly mask, his expression one of great disappointment. The battle had just reached its climax, but ended hastily, leaving him unsatisfied. Crawling beasts. Social creatures with some wolf-like traits. If only I could find their den and wipe them all out in one go. A unique aberration on the brink of transformation into a mature form would surely yield higher quality corpses after being hunted. Soon, Yangfeng cleaned up the battlefield. 3 light green corpses were extracted from the back of the crawling beasts' heads. Judging by the standards of Jade, they weren't very full in color. Only a small portion exhibited a certain sunlit imperial green, while the rest lacked much water content. Regardless of how it is, 3 green jade-level corpses are still a good harvest. Yangfeng pocketed them and then headed towards the 19th floor. After dealing with the crawling beasts, he had to arrange some matters. 19th floor. The refugees scattered, filling the corridor. Each of them held weapons but trembled and felt weak, their twisted faces filled with fear and their eyes full of panic. Bai Ting and her group of bodyguards took the lead instead. Those strong men wielding blades and iron rods trembled as they blocked the safe passage. Bai Ting held a gun, aiming at the doorway, seemingly ready to unleash a full clip as soon as the monster approached. Silence. In the entire corridor, no one dared to speak. Only the sound of suppressed sobs could be heard. Closer. The footsteps drew near. Outside the doorframe of the safe passage, clear footsteps approached step by step. Who? A monster. Bai Ting's hand holding the gun shook even more with the clattering of gun parts audible. Don't waste bullets. It's me. He pushed open the large door. Yangfeng's figure slowly appeared before the crowd. Yangfeng. Bai Ting's hands gripping the gun trembled uncontrollably, but the man who appeared before her left her so shocked that she couldn't speak. Yangfeng strolled in casually, seemingly unfazed as he stepped into the corridor. He even turned back, wiping his shoes against the bottom of the door frame to remove some sticky muck, as if he had just walked through a muddy rain. This simple action made some people vomit on the spot. Ugh. Ugh. What lay beneath was not just mud, it was clearly thick crimson liquid stuck to the soles of his shoes, mixed with crushed organic matter, giving it the appearance of muck. Close the door quickly. Yangfeng, there are monsters outside. Close the door. Bai Ting's stomach churned, but the instinct to survive made her forget her fears. It seemed that only by closing the large door to the corridor sealing off the path to safety could people's despair be somewhat alleviated. There's no need for that. Yang Feng's eyes held a hint of mockery as he shrugged. Those monsters have already run away, and the ones left have all been killed. Run away. Killed. Yang Feng's words were simple and casual, as if he had just accomplished something trivial. What? Bai Ting's eyes widened in disbelief. Monsters. Ran away. Killed. How could that be? Bai Ting had seen those monsters with her own eyes. They were enormous, easily blocking the entire window, and once inside they were over 2 meters long. From afar, the size of the crawling beasts was only slightly smaller than a car. Even if they trampled through the surviving refugees, could hardly withstand it. Moreover, with a mere flick of their claws they could tear anything to shreds. They could open their massive jaws and bite through a person at the waist, chewing briefly before swallowing whole. Human clubs and blades striking such monsters felt like mere tickles. Would such monsters run away? Would such monsters die? Come see for yourself, won't you? Bai Ting, and the rest of you come down with me. Yang Feng beckoned Bai Ting and a few bodyguards to follow him downstairs. What? Bai Ting shook her head like a rattle drum. She was too scared to go down now. No. I won't go down. I won't go down. As Bai Ting recalled the scene of the crawling beasts massacre, a suffocating sense of despair and fear surged within her. Even with all the courage in the world, she couldn't bring herself to descend. Moi. Yang Feng's gaze sharpened. His cold, piercing eyes swept over the group like a blade. They finally remembered that the man before them was also a demon, a butcher, who killed without blinking. A failing to obey his orders could lead to an even more horrific death. Fine. Bai Ting hesitated for a moment before finally making up her mind, trembling as she held the gun, following closely behind Yang Feng. The few bodyguards exchanged glances, and after a few shared looks they all followed in Yang Feng's footsteps. Ugh. The stench hit them hard in the safe passage. Colorful, viscous, organic matter of various kinds spread around the steps, and broken bodies filled the entire space. The intense sensory assault caused the few people behind Yang Feng to vomit immediately. The safe passage needs to be cleaned up. You guys are responsible for that. The reward can be a bit higher, Yang Feng said nonchalantly, and the faces of the bodyguards turned green. Such work was a form of mental pollution, and no amount of food could compensate for the trauma it inflicted on the psyche. Yang Feng continued to walk down. The remains of the crawling beasts came into view. Ah, monsters! Bai Ting involuntarily screamed. No one could remain calm upon seeing the gigantic mutant beast. Smack! Yang Feng grabbed the gun from Bai Ting's hand to prevent her from doing something unexpected in her heightened emotional state. Look closely. They are already dead. Yang Feng spoke the harshest words in the most indifferent tone. The 3 mutants, each the size of a small car, lay lifeless on the ground, a sight beyond comprehension. Dead. Bai Ting's eyes widened as she confirmed that the 3 monsters lay still. It took her quite a while to accept this fact. Suddenly she seemed to think of something. Bai Ting whirled around, looking at Yang Feng with an even more terrified expression. Could it be that all the monsters were killed by Yue? The answer was evident. Just look at Yang Feng's nonchalant attitude. He didn't appear tense at all, completely dismissing the monsters. The truth was, he had already killed them all. Yang Feng shook his head. Not all of them are dead. 2 ran away. What a pity. This statement left everyone speechless, utterly shocked. What a pity. What was he regretting? Was he lamenting not killing all the monsters? Was that even possible? This meant that even creatures like the crawling beasts felt compelled to flee upon seeing Yang Feng, who truly was the monster here. The human-shaped monster. Yang Feng was the real monster. Bai Ting and the surrounding bodyguards looked at Yang Feng with entirely different eyes. Initially, Yang Feng was just a ruthless person. Later, he killed Mo Jianfeng, becoming someone utterly. Now Yang Feng had killed 3 crawling beasts completely beyond human comprehension. He was nothing short of a humanoid monster. Thud. One of the bodyguards knelt before Yang Feng. He was the security captain who had lost an arm to Yang Feng just 2 days ago. He was terrified. He was genuinely afraid. Yang Feng, boss. I was blind and failed to recognize your greatness. I offended you, and I bow to apologize. Thud. He slammed his head on the ground several times, each strike genuine, and before long his forehead was bleeding. What is your name? Yang Feng raised an eyebrow, asking with interest. My name is Miao Zhuang. Miao Zhuang, who had lost an arm, slowly lifted his bloodied face. Fear and unease penetrated to the bone. Don't take it to heart. I have no feelings for you. Yang Feng waved his hand dismissively. I just consider you an ant passing by. His casual words were not an insult, but a harsh reality. Whether Miao Zhuang lived or died was of no concern to him. He was merely an ant-like passerby, easily crushed if Yang Feng was in a bad mood, or spared if he felt benevolent. Thank you, sir. I am an ant. Thank you for your kind mercy. I will surely work diligently for you in the future. Upon hearing this, Miao Zhuang instead showed a joyful expression, slamming his head on the ground again. being insulted as an ant was worth celebrating as it meant he could at least lie for the time being. All these remains must be moved and burned. The rest is up to you. Yang Feng pointed at the carcasses of the crawling beasts, then looked at Bai Ting. Additionally, Bai Ting, I need to instruct you on a few matters. A few things. Hundreds, thousands must be done. No matter what, Bai Ting must comply, for the consequences are absolutely unimaginable to her. Many people died this time. You should find it easier to exploit those refugees. Yang Feng bore no psychological burden, his eyes filled with indifference, as if human life was merely a number to him. A pack of instant noodles every day, they should be able to accept that. Bai Ting shivered all over, hesitating for 2 seconds, her gaze flickering with a more sinister gleam. And with so many dead, there will be even more food saved. Yang Feng frowned. Saving food was not his goal, merely a part of the plan. Human lives are worthless. Those who cower in their rooms, trembling, daring only to be tortoises living off scraps until death. They hold no value. Yang Feng glanced outside the corridor. The hallway was long, lined with numerous rooms, many worthless cowards. Bai Ting smiled awkwardly beside him, wanting to say something, but she was interrupted by Yang Feng. Human lives are indeed valuable. Those who dare to fight and kill muster the courage to face monsters and struggle in the apocalypse. Their value is immense. Yang Feng sighed again, his eyes shimmering with sharp light, as if brewing a greater plan. I want to make a deal. Yang Feng's lips curled slightly as he took out a fleshy object that resembled a small heart, still warm in his palm. What is this? Bai Ting's eyes widened. The small fleshy lump looked somewhat disgusting, yet a mysterious fluorescent substance flowed within, enigmatic and deep. Corpse lump. This is the most basic type of corpse lump. It was extracted from the back of a rotten corpse. Yang Feng's smile turned more sinister as he continued. I need these small lumps, so I am willing to trade supplies and food for them. Corpse lumps. Bai Ting swallowed hard, roughly understanding Yang Feng's meaning. Fear filled her gaze if she understood correctly. The refugees needed to kill monsters to exchange for more supplies. Yang Feng's eyes sparkled. His smile grew more ferocious as he explained, people are very hungry now. 1 corpse lump can be exchanged for 10 packs of instant noodles. Isn't that a great deal, eh? Bai Ting's beautiful eyes widened, trembling all over, finally grasping the truth. You want the refugees to hunt those monsters. Bai Ting finally realized that hoarding all supplies was not Yang Feng's goal, but rather to obtain a large number of corpse lumps, which was his real plan. This demonic man intentionally reduced the distribution of food, plunging everyone into hunger just to motivate them to clash with the monsters. Yang Feng remained noncommittal. He still wore a cruel and sinister smile as he continued, food is plentiful: steak, pork, chicken legs, red wine, whatever you want is available. Consumables. All consumables. A person's speed in collecting corpse lumps is ultimately limited, so he intends to leverage his advantages to collect as many corpse lumps as possible, turning all the refugees in the entire building into consumables for harvesting corpse lumps. Of course, Yang Feng did not want to establish power or become a local tyrant. That would be too troublesome. It was far more comfortable to be a lone wolf, but raising some slaves to fight for him and seize corpse lumps was still acceptable. In his expectations, perhaps not a single survivor in the entire apartment would survive. While neighbors hoard food, I will hoard neighbors. What Yang Feng desired was not just the neighbors' food, but their blood, their flesh, their bones, their lives. Draining every last drop of blood. All of it to nourish the dark, golden, artifact-grade ghost face. 4th floor. The hearts of the people are in turmoil. All the doors in the rooms were tightly locked, fearing an attack from monsters. Knock, knock, knock. Su Man Man and other refugees were knocking on the doors, praying for a kind soul to let them in. Whoa, let me in, please let me in. This is my house. It was originally my house. Why am I being driven out? I kindly took you in, can I hide for just a little while? Su Man Man knocked on the door of room 407, crying weakly with tears like pearls rolling down, ultimately collapsing weakly against the wall. At this moment, her condition was even more tragic. A day and a night without food had left her pale, her body appearing very weak. Su Man Man's face also bore several bruises. Her delicate arms and fair thighs were similarly swollen, clearly having been beaten by someone. Did someone try to force her? Su Man Man's clothing had signs of being torn, but judging by her appearance, she must have refused, stubbornly willing to take a beating rather than let the other party succeed. Click. Yang Feng walked to his room and turned the key in the lock. Upon seeing Yang Feng return, Su Man Man's eyes flickered with a hint of hope, and she struggled to stand and walk over. Yang Feng, can you help me? Su Man Man bit her lip lightly. She cried, looking like a rain-soaked pear flower, her face full of grievance and unwillingness, pleading with her head bowed. No. Yang Feng decisively rejected her. I have helped you before. You said you had no food. I immediately gave you a self-heating hot pot. Su Man Man felt even more wronged as she recounted the events of the first day of the apocalypse, remembering how she had given Yang Feng some food when he needed help. Of course, Yang Feng did not really need it. He was merely mocking her. So, I think you're quite kind. You shouldn't be seeking anything in return. Yang Feng's words rendered Su Man speechless. A good saint should give without seeking anything in return, emphasizing selfless dedication. Is kindness so detestable to you? Su Man's eyes turned red, but she did not understand what she had done wrong to make Yang Feng dislike her so much. Is kindness wrong? Yang Feng recalled briefly, only to feel a flood of unpleasant memories attacking. Why has he become so indifferent? Why has he become so bloodthirsty? Why has he become so cruel? Once upon a time, Yang Feng was also a kind young man. Once upon a time, Yang Feng was also a warm-hearted, cheerful, sunny boy. Once upon a time, Yang Feng was also optimistic, bringing joy to others in the apocalypse without asking for anything in return. And what happened? Betrayal, suspicion, misunderstanding, accusation, bullying, insult. Unimaginable pain shattered his self-esteem, breaking his unrealistic fantasies. Shoes caked with mud trampled on his head, half of his face pushed into the mud. Brown, foul-smelling filth poured over him, openly humiliated by the strong, subjected to the laughter of others. For a piece of food, for half a bottle of clean water, he had to compete with a vicious dog, amusing the strong. Yang Feng knelt on the ground, begging for mercy, repeatedly bowing and apologizing, defending the brothers and lovers he had lived with day and night, wanting to take all the blame upon himself, only to realize they had already betrayed him and had put the blame on him. Humiliation. The dark twist of the apocalypse shattered all his kindness. He learned to endure. He learned to be silent. He learned to become stronger at any cost. He learned to enjoy battle, delighting in the blood rain, fighting endlessly. He learned to bestow fear and despair upon his enemies in the most cruel ways and then tear them apart. Pain is also a gift. Whatever does not kill you will make you stronger. Yang Feng recovered from his trance and looked at Su Man with a hint of amusement in his eyes. Thank you for helping me. So, I want to repay you with a big gift. Yang Feng patted Su Man's shoulder, and the aggrieved girl immediately showed a look of joy, but the next sentence sent her heart plummeting again. A lesson. I want to give you a lesson. Your kindness is of no benefit. Yang Feng retracted his hand, coldly closing the door, leaving Su Man standing there in a daze, disheveled in the wind. Back in his room, Yang Feng took out 3 emerald green corpse lumps. The moment of harvest had finally arrived. It was time to evolve. 3 days. The 3rd day of the apocalypse. Yang Feng wasted not a moment in his actions. He took out 3 green jade-level corpse tumors, their spiritual essence faintly glowing occasionally, revealing a hue reminiscent of the imperial green of the right sun, all eaten by the ghost face. No, these 3 corpse tumors are insufficient to allow ghost face to evolve, failing to achieve a qualitative transformation. That special crawling beast might return at any time. If it evolves to the mature stage, it will be a huge problem. I must enhance my strength immediately. Yang Feng thought of the fleeing crawling beast. Its muscles were a vibrant green, emitting a faint glow, clearly having consumed enough flesh and blood just to step away from evolving into maturity. Next time, this monster will be much harder to deal with. The corpse tumors of the crawling beast are also of the muscle. Then let's enhance the deep iron muscle fibers, once more raising my power to a higher level. As for Ghost Face, it will require the entire apartment to work together and support it. Yang Feng steeled his heart, crushing the 3 corpse tumors. The vividly colored spiritual essence permeated his skin and merged into his muscle fibers, providing a substantial amount of matching energy. Restless. The muscle fibers throughout Yang Feng's body twisted like countless writhing snakes, greedily sucking in the green spiritual essence until they gradually reached saturation. Evolution. Mutation. The fibers emitting a pale blue hue deepened in color, transforming into a profound azure shade, becoming even denser. However, an unexpected mutation arose. The deep iron fibers suddenly became uncontrollable. They grew so powerful that they began to uncontrollably proliferate, wrapping around the bones and tightening, relentlessly attempting to tear apart his entire skeletal structure. Moreover, the deep iron fibers expanded excessively, trying to thicken the muscles, causing countless steel-like fibers to frantically intertwine, forming a massive tangled clump. Overburdened, this body could not bear it and was about to be completely overtaken. Ghost Face unleashed. Are you staging a rebellion again? You really think I wouldn't dare to act against you? Yang Feng bowed his head, surprisingly threatening the muscles on his own body. This time, the deep iron fibers truly grew obstinate. Even when Ghost Face directly threatened it, it remained unfazed, continuing to encroach upon other territories. In the growth phase, you can't be suppressed anymore. Although Ghost Face was a dark gold-grade artifact, it was merely a nascent form, vaguely feeling unable to restrain the deep iron fibers. Ignoring the warning very well. Yang Feng's warnings bore no fruit. As he opened his gaping maw, the fangs of Ghost Face sinking into the muscle, tearing and chewing while sucking in vast amounts of spiritual essence. A large chunk of profound azure muscle was swallowed. The spiritual essence was drained, and the deep azure muscle quickly withered, becoming as fragile as dry twigs. The deep iron fibers. finally learned to fear. They contracted, rapidly returning to the smooth lines of their original golden ratio. It dared not invade other territories anymore, and its skeletal structure became light once more, finally subdued again by Ghostface. Humph. Now do you know fear? Focus on developing in your own territory. Yang Feng threatened, though he felt some Ghostface, thankfully possessing a dark gold-grade artifact, allowed him to evolve recklessly. Otherwise, to avoid becoming a monster, he would have to tread carefully, mastering certain traits before daring to acquire the next new ability. Doing so would waste a lot of time. Deep iron fibers growing stage, they became tougher, akin to steel forged through 1,000 hammerings, able to withstand even large-caliber firearms, while significantly enhancing strength. Several hours later, the evolution was completed. Yang Feng exhaled a long breath of stale air. These deep iron fibers cannot be upgraded any further. Ghostface can suppress them this time, but if they continue to grow, they might truly disregard me. Yang Feng lamented, realizing Ghostface's ability to cross levels of suppression showcased its strength. This ability is not only reflected in strength, but also in its exceptionally unique mechanisms. As an artifact, Ghostface can suppress other organs across levels, and after upgrading it may acquire new supernatural abilities, triggering even stronger, unique mechanisms. However, after completing this evolution, it should be a while before anyone could match Yang Feng's strength. Ghostface, juvenile dark gold artifact, bone blade, growing stage green jade level, deep iron fibers, growing stage blue ocean pattern, rare level. In just 3 days, Yang Feng had already gained such formidable abilities. It should be rephrased. Even if other evolvers were given more time, it would be difficult for them to catch up to this level. They might not even see the tail lights or get a whiff of the exhaust. The apocalypse. The 4th day, the apartment officially distributed food. This is today's food. Bai Ting, as the property manager, fulfilled her promise by giving each resident a whole pack of instant noodles. Starving, most residents had long been dizzy from hunger, opening their doors, eagerly, greedily gazing at the food-laden cart behind Bai Ting. No one dared to snatch. Beside the cart, several strong men held blades and iron rods, maintaining order. Times have changed. Yesterday, many people had risen up in resistance, igniting group courage, prompting others. Today, however, it was different. Everyone felt weak, and no one dared to resist Bai Ting, especially since she was. This is too little. Despite this, many still complained. Want to eat your fill? Want more supplies? No problem, as long as you can bring this. Bai Ting took out a corpse tumor, which was precisely the sample Yang Feng. The small living tumor emitted a faint glow, mysterious and strange, still warm to the touch. This is a corpse tumor. From now on, 1 corpse tumor can be exchanged for 10 packs of instant noodles or equivalent food. A heavyweight announcement. Bai Ting's words detonated the floor like a deep-sea bomb, leaving everyone baffled. What could directly exchange for 10 packs of instant noodles? Kill the corpses. Their occipital weak points may yield such corpse tumors. Bai Ting's words left everyone stunned, realizing that the corpse tumors were obtained by killing monsters. Isn't that sending us to our deaths? Exactly. I can't even avoid them, and you want us to actively kill those monsters. It's like asking an old man to hang himself for a longer life. Damn you, you scheming woman, I knew you had bad intentions. When people spoke of monsters, fear naturally emerged, and from the far end of the corridor, others pointed at Bai Ting, angrily cursing, then quickly running away when she wasn't looking. However, under heavy rewards, brave men must arise. Those who had practiced martial arts for a few years clenched their fists, eager to act. University students who had joined the archery club took out longbows and arrows, contemplating feasibility. The pillar of a family of 3 glanced at his starving wife and child, seemingly stealing his resolve. The news spread. The people in the apartment harbored their own ulterior motives. Yang Feng completed his evolution, tidied up his body, and cooked a luxurious bowl of seafood noodles, adding a few sausages and large chunks of beef. He slurped the noodles, opened the door, leaned against the door frame, and listened to the various gossip outside. Hey, have you heard? Someone has started to take action. The security passage on the 2nd floor is surrounded by many people, all clearing the obstacles. The refugees hid in the apartment building, doing nothing, and any slight disturbance spread like wildfire. I've heard. Why is no one stopping them? If the obstacles are cleared and the monsters attack, what will we do? Won't we all be doomed? More people cared about their own safety, and no one was concerned about who would die. However, once the passage opened, the corpse monsters would flood into the apartment, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Recruiting teammates. Recruiting teammates. Is anyone prepared to go hunt the monsters? The most absurd thing was that someone was actually shouting for teammates as if they were going to level up and fight monsters, completely oblivious to the danger. Interesting. Yang Feng chewed on a large piece of beef, slurped another mouthful of noodles, and took a sip of soup, feeling immensely satisfied. Turning his head, he saw Su Man from room 407, leaning against the corner, staring longingly at the delicious food in her hands. You look like you haven't eaten. Wasn't today's food already distributed? Yang Feng was a bit curious, but Su Man Man lowered her head, tears glistening in her eyes as she replied in a mosquito-like voice, I was robbed again. Su Man Man had just received a pack of instant noodles, and before she could even warm them, they were immediately snatched away by other refugees. Indeed, good people are often bullied and strong horses are often ridden. Everyone knew she was kind and easy to pick on, and in this extreme environment, they naturally became even more unscrupulous. Despair. Her eyes were filled with despair, as if she no longer held any hope for this world. Su Man Man wiped her tears, slowly got up from the ground, as if having made a certain resolution, and walked towards the security passage. Oh, Yang Feng was somewhat surprised. If one does not erupt in silence, they will die in silence. Was Su Man Man perhaps foolish enough to prepare to leave the apartment thinking she could hunt those monsters? Yang Feng withdrew his gaze and returned to his room, looking down through the window. The obstacles have been cleared. A few men holding knives dressed in heavy clothing stealthily walked out from the entrance of the security passage. Miao Zhuang. Yang Feng recognized the burly man who had lost a hand to security captain Miao Zhuang, who had also taken the risk for food. Fortunately, Yang Feng had already cleared most of the corpses in the inner courtyard, otherwise if they ran into monsters they would be surrounded immediately. The corpses. During the day their mobility becomes relatively slow. Their deformed bodies can absorb sunlight to perform a kind of photosynthesis, drawing a small amount of energy. Yang Feng glanced at the side of the courtyard where the wandering corpses had clearly sensed the presence of people through sound and smell. It is daytime now. The strength of the corpses is significantly reduced. If it were night, they would enter a state of heightened activity with their entire essence activated, and the chance of obtaining corpse tumors after hunting them would also increase. This is why Yang Feng always chose to hunt monsters at night. Kill. Roar. The battle was about to erupt as several men, tightly wrapped up, swung their machetes at the corpses. The monsters roared angrily, attracting more companions, opening their massive bloody mouths and clashing with. These people faced monsters for the first time. These people fought desperately for the first time. The severe lack of experience led to even more serious problems. If they don't grip the knife tightly, it will slip from their hands. The sharp blade struck the hardest skull, but lacked the strength to cleave it, instead getting stuck in the bone. This is reality. These usually arrogant strong men performed like useless beings in actual combat, swinging wildly, without hitting any vital points. The corpses counterattacked, their black claws tearing through thick clothing, followed by a gushing torrent of crimson liquid, and then steaming chunks of organic matter were pulled out, devoured greedily. Newbies, novices, and still harboring a delusional mentality on the battlefield. I am the protagonist on the battlefield, I am the luckiest. On the battlefield, I can survive until the end. On the battlefield, I am the protagonist, everyone else is an NPC. However, when you are gravely injured and lying on the ground, your body being torn apart, watching the corpse monster pull out a still beating bright red heart from your chest, feeling life slipping away rapidly, that delusional mentality will vanish in an instant. I will die. The screams are incessant, more and more monsters surround, many greedy humans are knocked to the ground, followed by the harsh sounds of tearing and chewing. The apocalypse is not a playground. Yang Feng looked down at everything below, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned, revealing more cruelty. Damn. Damn it, damn it, damn it. No matter how many I kill, they keep coming, damn it. Someone became enraged, wielding a machete with all their might until the blade was completely dull and covered in nicks. Whoa. Someone broke down on the spot, tears streaming down their face, crying loudly. More people chose to flee the battlefield, dropping their blades and running towards the security passage. However, a figure caught Yang Feng's attention. Su Man Man. She picked up a kitchen knife, rushed to the monsters that had been chopped down regardless of everything, hurriedly slicing open the back of their heads, searching for corpse tumors. 1, 2, 3. She made up her mind, gritted her teeth, overcame her fear, and frantically rummaged through the remains of the corpses. Finally, she obtained a corpse tumor, seizing the loot with her life. Damn, that corpse was killed by me, you thief, give it back to me. A burly man rushed forward, grabbing Su Man Man's hair and directly snatching the corpse tumor from her hand. Picking peaches. Not so easy. Su Man Man's expression changed unpredictably. She had once been kind and gentle, but after being trampled and abused daily, the hope in her eyes was gradually replaced by deep despair. Be ruthless. I need to be even more ruthless. I don't want to be bullied by others, I don't want to be insulted. Su Man Man's gaze gradually changed, her eyes gaining a few hints of viciousness as she raised the kitchen knife and stabbed it toward the man from before. With one stab, she struck his back. Mine. That corpse tumor is mine. Mine. Su Man Man's pupils constricted as the kitchen knife pierced through the man's back. You? The man's body went limp and fell. He never expected that Su Man Man, usually harmless and submissive, would dare to kill at a critical moment. Die. Died. Su Man Man roared in a fit of rage, her kitchen knife stabbing down repeatedly, hot crimson liquid spraying across her face. A bloody figure. Su Man was covered in filth and blood, her grotesque expression appearing even more terrifying. She reclaimed the corpse tumor, her bloodshot eyes shifting to the nearby decaying remains, immediately pouncing to continue her harvest. How could this be? Everyone was dumbfounded. In their minds, Su Man had always been a pure and kind figure, eagerly helping everyone, her smile seemingly filled with sunshine. And now, she suddenly seemed like a completely different person, turning into a demon from hell. Had she been infected and mutated as well? Her inner struggle must be intense. Yang Feng sat by the window, observing the battle between humans and monsters. Su Man's transformation did not surprise him. Even a rabbit would bite when cornered. When a person is pushed to the edge, anything could happen. In just a few days of the apocalypse, Yang Feng witnessed the entirety of Su Man's change. Good intentions met with bad outcomes. Genuine feelings resulted in betrayal. What torment did Su Man endure when those refugees she had once helped snatched away hard-earned food, even attempting to tear her clothes in humiliation? Her kindness was gradually crushed, her passion was slowly extinguished, her optimistic worldview crumbled bit by bit, ultimately transforming her into this state. Retreat. Quickly retreat. There are more and more monsters in the yard, we must escape. The crowd fought fiercely, but the commotion from their attacks attracted more monsters, howling and surrounding the apartment's door. Oh. The screams came one after another. Some, blinded by rage, charged recklessly into the horde of corpses, only to realize that there were no humans around, just grotesque, ugly, decaying bodies. Retreat. The defeat was like a mountain collapsing. The circle of people quickly tightened as they scrambled towards the stairwell. Hurry! Obstacles blocked them quickly. Those who had retreated to the second floor hurriedly pushed heavy objects down to prevent the monsters from rushing into the apartment during the brief lull. Damn! I'm still down here. Don't block us, there are still people behind. Many had not yet escaped to the second floor and watched as the obstacles piled higher, cursing loudly. They quickly climbed onto cabinets and tables, taking advantage of the fact that the passage was not completely blocked to scramble back to the second floor. Ah, my leg. A large cabinet toppled over, crushing a poor soul's leg, rendering him unable to extricate himself. The corpses came. The clawing monsters immediately lunged at the unfortunate one, followed by the sounds of tearing and gnawing. Tough luck for you. Just struggle a bit longer to buy us some time. The other humans around merely shot him a cold glance, some even relishing the sight, seizing the opportunity while the corpse munched away to slip through the gaps. In the end, the passage was blocked again. A few unfortunate souls remained outside, and soon the sounds of screams returned. Oh, hot crimson liquid seeped out from the gaps at the bottom, filling the corridor with a faint smell of blood. Heavy casualties. Morale was low. Among the brave gathered there were over 30 people, but after a series of battles and various accidents, only a dozen returned. More than half of them died outside. The apocalypse was not a playground. Even the lowest level corpse monsters were perilous for ordinary people to deal with, and they could die a miserable death at any moment. Help me. In the dim light, someone cried for help against the wall. Though he had managed to return, a large chunk of flesh had been bitten off his thigh, injuring an artery, and blood was flowing profusely. With a rip, an experienced veteran tore his clothing into strips, tightly binding them around his thigh to staunch the bleeding for now. Severe bleeding. Hurry, someone help me stop the bleeding first, he's going to die soon. Many watched the commotion, but few could help. Still, a doctor stepped forward. I have tools in my room who will help me. A young man grabbed the keys and rushed toward the floor where the doctor's room was located. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of clapping echoed in the corridor. A man walked over with a mocking expression, speaking in a derisive tone. This is truly a shining moment of humanity working together to save a dying man. Such a glorious endeavor. Why did you just block the others outside with obstacles and let them be torn apart by monsters? Yang Feng. His sarcastic words instantly infuriated everyone present. Things were urgent earlier. Those monsters could charge in at any moment, so we had to block the passage in advance. The retired veteran had a sharp mind and glanced at the injured person nearby. The situation is different now. A saving one is better than none. Not a bad excuse. Yang Feng nodded secretly. The veteran's ability to stay rational after the carnage was indeed a talent. What a pity. The person you're trying to save is about to become a monster. Yang Feng pointed at the injured man, whose bitten thigh showed large areas of necrosis, the bright red blood seemingly turning dark brown. Infection. Anyone bitten by a monster had a high probability of mutating into one unless their will was exceptionally strong, otherwise they would turn into a corpse within a few hours. Oh, he's infected. The doctor was startled and jumped away from him. During the previous series of emergency treatments, he hadn't taken any protective measures against infection if he were to get infected himself. Don't be afraid. It's just saliva infection. Scratches from claws could also be a possibility. Yang Feng revealed a playful smile, patting the doctor on the shoulder. Once the possibility of him getting hurt arose, the doctor immediately distanced himself. Everyone felt a wave of intense fear at Yang Feng's words. They hurried to check their bodies, terrified that any corpse monster had left them with a wound. Help me see if I have any wounds on my back. This is just a bruise, not a bite. It's fine, it's definitely fine. Some who were unharmed finally relaxed their anxiety. Others frightened themselves over minor scrapes and swellings, nearly losing their minds. However, some remained silent, hiding their wounds and quietly blending into the crowd. Ugh! The injured man, losing too much blood, gradually became disoriented. This situation would accelerate the speed of infection, and he unconsciously emitted inhuman low growls, his body rapidly undergoing changes. His fingernails gradually enveloped the entire finger bone, forming grotesque claws. Sharp teeth. The injured man's teeth fell out en masse, only to be replaced by razor-sharp fangs like a shark scattered throughout his mouth. Infection. Mutation. The injured man trembled violently, his eyes rolling back to reveal only the whites, appearing fierce and terrifying, on the verge of becoming a corpse monster. With a thrust, a kitchen knife pierced through the injured man's neck. Su Man. She acted without hesitation, then withdrew the knife and sliced open the back of the injured man's skull, searching for the anticipated corpse tumor. TSK. How terrifying. Yang Feng leaned against the wall, lamenting how the once kind saint had become quite frightening after her transformation. Snap! Yang Feng snapped his fingers. At the end of the corridor, the sound of a cart being pushed arrived. Bai Ting walked at the forefront, followed closely by several strong bodyguards who set down a large amount of supplies in front of everyone. Let me introduce myself again. From today onwards, all the corpse tumors you collect must be handed over to me. Yang Feng did not intend to hide his identity as he stood before Bai Ting under the astonished gazes of the crowd. That's Yang Feng from the 4th floor. Has Bai Ting and those bodyguards betrayed Mo Jianfeng? I heard earlier that Mo Jianfeng was killed by that brat a long time ago, and his body was carried out. A multitude of gossip whispers filled the air. People's gazes towards Yang Feng were filled with a hint of trepidation, and after defeating the big boss of the group and making Bai Ting and the bodyguards submit, he undoubtedly had some impressive skills. All right, 1 corpse tumor for 10 bags of instant noodles. The exchange starts now. Yang Feng stepped aside while Bai Ting, resembling a convenience store clerk, neatly arranged a large amount of supplies. Food. These were steamed buns stained with blood. More than 30 people were fierce, yet only a dozen returned. The rest had been torn to shreds by monsters, and the cost was hard to bear. 1. A retired soldier stepped forward first, slowly opening his palm to reveal a corpse tumor. Around 40 years old, with a resolute gaze, scars on his face, his right hand slightly deformed and calluses from holding a gun. Though age had increased, his physical strength remained formidable. Exchange him for food. Yang Feng put away the corpse tumor and curiously asked, "What's your name?" Su Hong. The veteran Su Hong replied, plainly showing little fondness for Yang Feng, taking the 10 bags of instant noodles and preparing to leave. Don't rush. After distributing the supplies, I have other matters to announce. Yang Feng blocked the way of the veteran Su Hong. Having revealed his identity, he naturally had more important matters to attend to, otherwise Bai Ting and those bodyguards could handle the trivial task of distributing supplies. Humph! Su Hong snorted coldly and stepped back. Continue the exchange. Yang Feng waved his hand, and an old acquaintance stepped forward, none other than Miao Zhuang, whom he had previously severed an arm. Boss Yang Feng. Miao Zhuang displayed a fawning demeanor, bowing and scraping to Yang Feng. Yang Feng squinted his eyes, feeling he had misjudged this one-armed Miao Zhuang. This former bodyguard captain, kneeling before him to save his life, had cracked his head in a fawning manner, utterly humble, weak, and timid. A cowardly person. How could he dare to fight those monsters? 1 corpse tumor. Miao Zhuang opened his palm, producing a corpse tumor. I don't want instant noodles. I want beef. Miao Zhuang pointed at the supplies in the cart, which included a large bag of vacuum-packed cooked beef. Quite an appetite. Yang Feng became more interested, nodded at Bai Ting to bring the beef, and then smiled, asking, "Why do you want to participate in this operation?" Miao Zhuang was taken aback. His gaze darted towards the bodyguards behind Bai Ting, his eyes somewhat peculiar. I want to prove myself. Even with just 1 arm left, I am the bravest and most daring one. Oh, I see. Miao Zhuang was once the security team leader, but after losing an arm, his status had greatly diminished. Moreover, after previously begging Yang Feng, many looked down on him in the ensuing gossip. Proving oneself. Miao Zhuang needed to demonstrate to those bodyguards that he was still the fiercest, the most. With a tearing sound, Miao Zhuang opened the packaging, stuffing a large piece of beef into his mouth, boastingly looking at his former companions, showcasing this delicacy earned with his life. Interesting. Yang Feng withdrew his gaze and looked towards a graceful figure approaching. Su Man. Su Man had shed her gentle and kind image, now covered in crimson liquid, holding a kitchen knife, looking more like a murderous maniac escaped from a mental hospital. She stepped forward, opened her other hand, and surprisingly produced 2 corpse tumors. Quite lucky. And bold. I want meat too. Steak, beef, chicken legs, marinated eggs, hot dogs, instant noodles. Su Man Man lowered her voice, pointing at several items, their value likely exceeding 20 bags of instant noodles. As the manager of the supplies by Ting looked somewhat troubled and refused, saying, "Wait, let me calculate the total value. The corpse tumors you provided are insufficient." "I don't care. I'm very hungry. Oh, I want food, delicious food. Even if you count it as credit, I will find more corpse tumors to exchange with you." Su Man Man was indeed somewhat insane, even wanting to buy on credit, disregarding all consequences, just to have a good meal. The surrounding bodyguards surged forward, ready to control the crazed woman. "Let her have it on credit." The simple 3 words left by Ting, and the surrounding bodyguards stunned. Yang Feng actually showed mercy, granting Su Man Man credit without giving any explanation. "All right." Bai Ting reluctantly took out a plastic bag. She packed 5 bags of instant noodles, 1 bag of steak, 1 bag of cooked beef, 2 grilled sausages, 1 chicken leg, and stuffed them all into the bag, handing it to Su Man Man. Others stared wide-eyed. "Can credit really be given? I want credit too. I've had such bad luck, I will surely get corpse tumors next time. If others can have it on credit, why can't we? I just killed more monsters than she did." Those who returned empty-handed shouted, and some even began to act shameless. "It's not about scarcity, but inequality." Yang Feng sneered, his gaze contemptuous, looking at the shouting individuals as if they were garbage. "Those who did not obtain corpse tumors are useless trash to me. Anyone unhappy can step forward." Yang Feng provocatively beckoned the crowd with a finger, and among them a robust individual covered in tattoos swaggered forward. "Kid, I see you're not very old. In society, you might not have heard much of your brother back then." Before he could finish, a large hand quickly seized half of his face, brutally slamming him against the wall. Bang! With a heavy thud, large chunks of wall plaster fell off and cracks spread like a spider's web. The self-proclaimed big brother had half of his face embedded in the wall, hot crimson liquid flowing out incessantly, his entire skull shattered. "He's dead." With that one strike, his life was taken. The surrounding people were startled, especially the retired Special Forces soldier, Su Hong, who understood how much strength was needed for such a blow. "The past is the past, the present is the present. In this apartment, I have the final say. Oh, anyone who defies or provokes me will meet this fate." Yang Feng acted like a dictatorial tyrant, leaving no room for negotiation. The crowd obediently fell silent. They trembled, exchanging the corpse tumors in their hands without daring to utter another word. 8. A total of 8 corpse tumors were collected this time. Not bad. Worth the effort of the entire night. Yang Feng thought to himself, stowing them away and revealing a satisfied smile. Next, it's time for the main event. Yang Feng slowly took a few steps forward, arriving at the center of the crowd. "First of all, let me show you something." Yang Feng walked up to the decayed corpse, mutated from an injured person, broke off one of its sharp teeth, and then made a cut in the palm of his hand. The sharp tooth cut into his palm, causing a few drops of crimson liquid to flow out. The crowd gasped in shock. Is he out of his mind? Is Yang Feng really risking his life? He could become infected and turn into a similarly twisted and deformed monster. Don't worry. As you can see, I am not afraid of infection. What is the most terrifying aspect of those corroded corpses? Sharp teeth, razor-like claws. None of these are the most fearsome. It is the overwhelming infectiousness that brings despair. Even the slightest wound could transform you into a monster. No need to be bound by limitations. No need to fear becoming a monster. I can lend you power. And when you engage in battle with the monsters, you can unleash your full potential. Yang Feng spread his arms wide, a slight smile curling at the corners of his mouth, his eyes flickering with a hint of madness. Just the words "unleash battle" were enough to excite anyone. The crowd exchanged glances. The information was overwhelming, making it hard to accept. Lend power. What secret does this seemingly young man hold? Not only immunity to infection. The power Yang Feng just showcased could crush a human skull into the wall with a single blow, far beyond the limits of an ordinary person. Restless, the people after the brutal fighting deeply felt the importance of power and began to calculate in their hearts. What's the cost then? You just mentioned that the power is lent to us. What's the interest? Veteran Su Hong was the first to react, understanding deeply that there's no free lunch in the sky, especially not in this post-apocalyptic world where even crumbs wouldn't be left for you. Slaves. Anyone who accepts my power must become a slave. Yang Feng's smile turned sinister, and the content was even more outrageous, making it hard to accept. There is only one condition. You must completely obey my commands, even if it means sacrificing your life. You must execute them immediately. Is this the condition? This was simply an insult. The crowd's eyes were filled with anger. To be completely reduced to a slave, fulfilling all of the master's conditions, was even worse than being an animal. Are you angry? Yang Feng sneered, and instead of soothing the crowd with sweet words, he continued to add fuel to the fire, stating conditions that were even harder to accept. When surrounded by a tide of corpses, one command, means you must sacrifice yourself for a way out to carve a bloody path for me. When hunted by aberrations, one command means you must stay behind and buy me time. On days when I'm unhappy and want to watch a fight, I will make a few slaves fight each other for my amusement, and they must fight with all their strength. Yang Feng's words grew increasingly outrageous. In his description, slaves were even worse than animals. They were nothing more than cannon fodder, mere toys for amusement. Crazy. I'm not playing this game anymore. Veteran Su Hong could not accept this, picking up his spoils and turning to leave. Most people felt the same. No one would entrust their lives to a madman. Moreover, becoming a slave to someone being stripped of all freedom was simply absurd. The crowd began to disperse, yet surprisingly 3 individuals stayed behind, seemingly ready to accept Yang Feng's conditions. The first one, Miao Zhuang. His presence did not surprise Yang Feng. He was the one who knew best how powerful Yang Feng truly was. In an instant, Yang Feng severed Miao Zhuang's arm. Miao Zhuang had witnessed how the big boss Mo Jianfeng was taken down by Yang Feng, who even withstood gunfire with his flesh. Miao Zhuang had even seen the corpses of crawling beasts, and he knew that Yang Feng had slaughtered 3 giant creatures the size of cars. His strength was undeniable. Thus Miao Zhuang understood deeply the might of Yang Feng. Even being his slave was akin to clinging to a strong pillar. The second, Su Manman. Her presence was indeed a surprise. To destroy a person, it only takes the worst day. The experiences of these days in the apocalypse gradually transformed Su Manman, her once kind and naive heart shattered to pieces. To destroy a person, it only takes the worst day. The experiences of these days in the apocalypse gradually transformed Su Manman, her once kind and naive heart shattered to pieces. For you to stay is rather unexpected. I'm a bit curious, don't you hate me? Yang Feng mocked. For these past days he had often ridiculed Su Manman. She should have developed a hatred. Hate. I hate your indifference, wishing to stab your heart with a knife. Su Manman gritted her teeth and said, but then her tone shifted as she continued, however, I now understand that most of what you said is correct. The grand gift you gave me was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, showing me how naive I truly was. I need power at any cost. These words momentarily stunned Yang Feng. Yang Feng had given Su Manman a great lesson, a lesson of kindness not being rewarded. In the dark corner, Su Manman pondered many things, questioning what was truly right, what constituted kindness, and what mistakes she had made. The answer was clear. Her kindness was hypocritical, obsessive, and extreme. Her kindness was merely for the sake of being praised, to earn respect, to be acknowledged, and to satisfy her own vanity as a pure and kind girl. I understand now. Yang Feng saw it in her eyes. Everything became clear. A consciousness awakened. She broke through her old self and gained a new identity. Finally, Yang Feng turned to the third individual. It was a young man with dyed yellow hair, full of tattoos on his arms, and his 10 fingers adorned with cool patterns. Boss Yang Feng, my name is Huang Fei. Huang Fei introduced himself with a fawning smile. This kid had a casual attitude, lacking in determination. Such a slick talker was someone Yang Feng had seen too much of in his past life. He seemed more like someone looking to recognize the boss and find a big tree to shelter under, hoping to take advantage of the bestowed powers. In truth, Huang Fei thought exactly this way. A slave. Just words, who knows what will happen later. He'll just ride the wave of benefits first. If worse comes to worst, I'll seize an opportunity to escape. Or even stab him in the back to take everything. As Huang Fei was lost in fantasy, Yang Feng patted him on the shoulder. Huang Fei, not bad. Come with me. Yang Feng said no more, turning to head upstairs, and the rest followed suit. 19th floor. A special room had been cleaned up. In the center of the room was a bed, and on it were chains that could bind both hands and feet, resembling an evil doctor's laboratory. Huang Fei, you lie down first. Yang Feng urged Huang Fei to be the first on the bed, which immediately caused unease. Huh, me first. Cough cough, can't someone else go first? Before Huang Fei could finish, Yang Feng revealed a cold, piercing gaze that made him shudder. Soon Huang Fei lay down, his hands and feet bound by chains. Yang Feng produced a syringe, and then took a small tumor, inserting the syringe into it, and slowly extracting a peculiar viscous substance. This was spiritual essence. Within the viscous substance, tiny lights sparkled, which was indeed the source of the aberration, a mysterious substance capable of mutating souls. Huang Fei gazed at the syringe, his heart pounding, filled with fear. These tumors were extracted from monster bodies. Oh, what would happen if injected into a human? Wouldn't that turn him into a monster? Boss Yang Feng, you wouldn't be injecting me with this, would you? Wait, I regret it. I don't want to be a slave anymore. Wait. Just because you say you don't want to be a slave, it doesn't mean you won't be. Yang Feng approached Huang Fei with a cruel smile, the syringe plunging down directly into his heart. Spiritual essence. A special substance glowing with fluorescence was injected into Huang Fei's body. The heart controlled the circulation of blood throughout the body, and the spiritual essence could merge with the blood at the fastest speed, leading to a unique physical reaction. It hurts. It feels like ants are biting me. It's so itchy, so itchy. The spiritual essence quickly spread, gradually merging with the blood, and the naked eye could see dark liquid flowing within the blood vessels, causing the surrounding flesh to decay rapidly. Corruption. The filth remaining in the soul was gradually eroding his body. Be more resolute in your will. Your body is yours to control. Do not let external impurities taint you. Yang Feng looked at Huang Fei with a calm gaze, his words sounding more like mocking sarcasm. His eyes rolled back. His fangs protruded. Huang Fei spewed foam from his mouth, his whole body shaking violently. The filthy, corrupted blood had already spread to his neck, rushing straight towards his brain. A low growl that resembled nothing human emitted from Huang Fei's throat, which eventually turned into a wild roar, completely losing his humanity and devolving into a decaying corpse monster. Su Manman, you handle him. Yang Feng directed his gaze towards Su Manman, then stepped aside to let her deal with the deformed monster that was Huang Fei. Is this the first command given to a slave? Su Manman did not hesitate, gripping the kitchen knife and stabbing forward, instantly piercing through Huang Fei's neck. How fortunate! He has developed a corpse tumor. At least it wasn't wasted. Yang Feng observed the glowing spiritual essence gathering at the death point at the back of Huang Fei's head, forming a brand new corpse tumor. Su Manman detached the corpse tumor and placed it into Yang Feng's hand, completing the first command. Miao Zhuang, drag the body away. The next one is your turn. Yang Feng commanded. Miao Zhuang shivered all over, hesitating for a few seconds, but still lay down on the bed, as ordered, binding his hands and feet with chains. A cautionary tale. Huang Fei's surgery failed, and the severe consequences were vividly recalled. Miao Zhuang's heart was filled with fear, and he felt a chill, involuntarily shivering all over. Your will should be much stronger than that of the little yellow-haired boy just now. Yang Feng approached with a smile, patting Miao Zhuang's shoulder. So, Miao Zhuang felt a bit relieved, thinking that his chances of survival were higher, right? So, I need to increase the dosage. Yang Feng revealed a devilish grin, taking 2 corpse tumors and slowly extracting the spiritual essence with a syringe. Boss Yang Feng, I'm afraid I can't endure it. Miao Zhuang began to struggle violently, fear wrapping around him instantly, and when he lifted his head, he only saw Yang Feng's sinister smile. The syringe pierced into the heart. The spiritual essence was injected, quickly merging into the blood, spreading through the arteries to all parts of the body. Miao Zhuang also began to howl in pain. The intense effect of the drug felt like thousands of ants gnawing at his heart, as if countless centipedes were crawling under his skin. Endure, keep enduring. Miao Zhuang desperately held on, his whole body trembling violently. Even his yellowed teeth were about to shatter. His eyes rolled back, revealing large areas of white, as if he were about to lose consciousness, yet he stubbornly. I don't want to die, you. I don't want to become a monster. I want everyone to look up to me. Miao Zhuang roared painfully, relying on his self-awareness to resist the pollution of the spiritual essence. Time passed second by second. Miao Zhuang's body trembled less and less. He was soaked in sweat, his face pale, as if he had lost. I succeeded. Miao Zhuang succeeded, completely resisting the invasion of the spiritual essence, undergoing a complete transformation. A new human. A person who can withstand the corpse tumor or resist the invasion of infection can evolve into a new human. Stronger in power. Faster in speed. Most importantly, they can be immune to infection, no longer fearing that they would be attacked by a decaying corpse and transformed into a mindless monster. Of course, the strength of a new human still falls far short of that of an evolved being, but they are already much stronger than ordinary people. Congratulations. You have become my slave. Yang Feng's congratulations sounded quite awkward, as if becoming his slave was something to be very proud of. It's your turn now. Su Manman. Yang Feng had Su Manman lie down on the bed, then took out a syringe and 2 corpse tumors, extracting the spiritual essence from one. Add more. Su Manman lay on the bed, binding her hands and feet, glanced at the nearby corpse tumors, and unexpectedly requested an increase in dosage. What a bold move. Do you know what it means to increase the dosage? For an ordinary person, 1 corpse tumor is already hard to bear. A resolute person can barely withstand 2 corpse tumors. Those battle-hardened veterans in the battlefield and jungle can at most endure 34 at most. Yang Feng shared his experience with Su Manman, explaining that for an ordinary person undergoing their first transformation, recklessly increasing the dosage is extremely dangerous. I want 4. Su Manman, however, had a determined look in her eyes, voluntarily raising the dosage to 4 corpse tumors. All right, don't regret it. I don't want to waste these corpse tumors. Yang Feng also revealed an excited expression, wondering just how strong the resilience of the darkened saint would be. For corpse tumors extracted into the syringe. Yang Feng walked over to Su Manman, the glowing substance in the syringe flickering, almost filling the entire tube. The syringe was injected. The spiritual essence from 4 corpse tumors merged into Su Man-Man's blood, almost instantly undergoing a unique change, turning into a filthy color. The filth spread quickly, leaving behind decaying flesh and forming large areas of rotten abscesses. Ah! Su Man-Man refused to admit defeat, enduring immense pain, while her gaze remained extraordinarily resolute. I want revenge. I want revenge. Those who betrayed me, bullied me, and insulted me. I want power, I want power, I want power. Su Man-Man shouted angrily, struggling in pain. Revenge was her greatest motivation to live. Her tremendous willpower truly acted as a dam, blocking the pollution of the spiritual essence. Oh, is this what stops you? Then it seems that 4 is not your limit. Yang Feng revealed a devilish grin, then took out another syringe, extracting the spiritual essence from 2 corpse tumors and forcefully injecting it into Su Man-Man's artery. Struggle a bit more. Be a bit crazier. The more spiritual essence you absorb, the stronger you'll become during your first evolution, and it will increase your capacity to endure more power. Yang Feng spoke beside Su Man-Man, seemingly encouraging her to resist as much of the spiritual essence filth as possible. Think about that mother and child who took away your food and then kicked you out of your room. Think about the refugees who enjoyed your resources and then kicked you into a corner. Think about those who beat you, insulted you, and abused you. Think about those with ulterior motives who wanted to tear your clothes off at night, wanting to thoroughly humiliate you and vent their desires. Yang Feng's words were like knives, continuously stabbing into Su Man-Man's heart. I want to live live. I want revenge, I want revenge, I want revenge. Su Man-Man roared angrily, the chains binding her clanking loudly. Even the bed creaked under the her body was undergoing evolution.